on vertical right there, because we're going to start getting into some of the topics today. And I think one of the main topics that we should start off with is the weekend box office, because a lot of fun things to talk about, especially with this whole Beetlejuice thing. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about weekend box office breakdown. So going into this weekend, and by the way, those of you who may be seeing me now on vertical, hello there, welcome. It is me, Renee, your low-key geek here, back for another live stream. Arnold saying this week is not perfect, but better than last week. Well, that's good. That's good. Better is always welcomed, right? Oh, by the way, you know what? Hold on. Time out. Time out. Let's not talk about box office just yet. How can I forget this? I feel like a lot of you will really appreciate this. Today is 9/9, a day that will forever live in video game infamy. Can somebody guess why that is? I'll give you guys like 30 seconds to let me know why today is such a big, important day in video game history. Let's see who can guess. I want to see who can guess why today is such a big day in the video game landscape. Why today is oh my goodness. Look, I'm hearing myself talking. Oh, have mercy. Well, I'm going to heart myself on vertical. Arnold quickly jumped over to vertical as soon as he can. No, it doesn't bother me at all. First Nintendo coming out? No, that's not correct. It is a console, though. It is a video game console that's coming out. Again, for those of you watching now on vertical, don't forget, hit that like button. All of us here present and accounted for will be very, very much appreciative of it. Chris got it right. Today is a day that the Dreamcast launched. Back in, what is it, 1999? Was it? Let's see. Dreamcast launch. Yes, so it launched in November 27th, 1998 in Japan. But here in North America, 9/9, and this was a big deal for Sega. They were really aiming for this date because it was one of those things where it's just like, oh, we gotta play with the numbers a little bit. 9/9/99 in North America was the official launch date for the Sega Dreamcast. I personally still think it is one of the most underrated consoles ever made. It was also Sega's last console that they ever made. And it was, yeah, Chris, I agree. It was a very trippy release day for a console, for Sega and for games. It was an in-between generational console. You know, what do you mean by that? Well, I'll tell you, because I was in the video game industry at the time. I was working at the long defunct ASC Games that was based out of Darien, Connecticut. And we actually have a launched game that was released for the Dreamcast. And that was like a big deal for us at the time. But it was in between, you know, your major generations, between the very first PlayStation 1 and the upcoming PlayStation 2. And because of fandom, fanboys who were in love with the Sony PlayStation, I mean, they owned a giant share of the market, a giant share of the video game market. You know, Sega, this was their last attempt at doing something different for their home console market. And that was bringing their arcade technology home for the very first time. The Dreamcast was based off of the Sega Naomi boards, where a lot of the arcade games that Sega put out there was known for. You know, your Virtual Fighters, your Daytonas, all those things. And it was really the very first like almost one-to-one feel of arcade to home console that you'll ever get or that you'll ever see. And there were a lot of fun games on that console. You know, Virtual Fighter, if you were into that. Power Stone is a game that I'll never forget. Rival Schools is another one that was really good on that system. Space Channel 5, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm big into like those music rhythm games, and that was definitely a blast. I mean, Michael Jackson was in the damn game, so that was really like amazing to see. Never thought you'd see that since Moonwalker, since the video game Moonwalker came out. The Sonic games, that first Sonic game was a blast. You know, and then there were other Sonic games that came out for that system. Shenmue, or is it Shenmue? That was a very popular RPG at the time. Really, really great RPG. Had a lot of fun. Phantasy Star Online was one of the first games you could really, truly play online because Dreamcast had that modem adapter that you were allowed to play online. That was a lot of fun too. You know, there's so many different great games that came out for it. But unfortunately, it was short-lived because there was no support for it at all. People didn't buy it because a lot of people were waiting for PlayStation 2, which came out, I believe, the following year. And once that came out, that's it. That was the death. That was the nail in the coffin for the Dreamcast because everyone just waited and they went ahead and they bought the PlayStation 2 instead. And history was written, and that's all she wrote for Sega. Sega eventually bowed out of the console game, and they just went third party, and they just did titles to land on any consoles, whether it be Sony, Xbox, or all those things. So yeah. So I always have fond memories of the Dreamcast. I remember always going to the first Dreamcast I got was a Japanese one. And I remember always going to Chinatown here in New York City and buying like the import games. You know, that's where I picked up the console for the first time. Immediately got it modified so that I can play bootlegs and North American games when they eventually came out. So yeah, me, my friends, those of us who worked at the video game company, we had so much fun with that. And yes, like I said, the company I worked for, we did have a launch title for Dreamcast. Here in North America, it was called TNN Hardcore Heat. Overseas, we didn't have anything to do with the overseas release because it was released as Buggy Heat internationally. We only had the rights for North America. And at the time, the company I worked for had the TNN, I guess, license and brand, and we released it as TNN Hardcore Heat. And one of the great things to this day I'll always never forget, that I'll always remember, is a way to put our signature within the game. We couldn't really like do a lot of dev work in it except for like getting the title screens corrected and some of the credits and any bugs that were outstanding. We changed some of the color names of some of the cars and the vehicles that you could race. So I do have a color named after me, and that is Zalata Blue. So if you happen to ever play TNN Hardcore Heat on the Dreamcast, and you go through your vehicle selection and you change the colors up, anytime you see blue, you'll see my last name, Zalata Blue, as one of the colors there. A friend of mine has Oz Green, and which is funny because it happens to be his name. And I'm not doxing him at all because Oz is very well known on the internet because of the Double Toasted podcast. So make sure to check that out. He has a show, What Up Son, that airs every Monday night. So tune in if you're a fan of Double Toasted and all that. But yeah, Dreamcast was a system that I thoroughly enjoyed and loved. So Arnold say, I'm 2000. Was it released in Europe in 2000, Arnold? Chris saying these days kids think when they hear something like something from the 1900s, it's ancient. That's especially 1999. So sad. I know it is. We've gotten to that point now where anything that's in the 90s for the current generation, they're like, what? Arnold also saying 1998, I was in my dad. Oh, I see. So you were Arnold, you were born in 2000? Is that the story there? That's funny. That's really funny. Again, for those of you watching on the vertical, don't forget, hit that like button. Would greatly, greatly appreciate the support. Yeah, you were born in 2000. Yeah, so you had no idea or no experience playing Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, all those consoles. But what I do appreciate, Arnold, about you is that you do know a lot about retro things and old school stuff. So, you I always appreciate when I hear and see things like that. So yeah, so I just wanted to pay a little nice tribute and homage to the Sega Dreamcast. The system that could, the system that meant well. The system that could have been something big, but unfortunately it wasn't. If you ever have a chance, give yourself a moment to sit down and check out a Dreamcast game. It was definitely a very interesting and unique system. I think it had potential to do a lot of things, but unfortunately, the support wasn't there for it. But yeah, definitely a system that I hold close and dear to my heart. And I know I've heard some people say, like, nowadays, they're like, well, the Dreamcast wasn't any good, really. It wasn't really that great. I just think it didn't have a chance to really show what it can do. But for the brief moment, let's face it, the Dreamcast only had a year, had a good solid year to try to do what it could. And in any console's existence, the first year is the worst year for any new console. Just when you think about it, the best stuff comes later on in the life cycle of a new console of any generation, right? But for the first year of the Sega Dreamcast, there was a lot of decent stuff that you could try and play, and that I personally had a lot of fun with. So that I will always appreciate the Sega Dreamcast for. And it was innovative for what it did, but I think a lot of people, again, like I said, they just didn't, because of the failure of the Saturn, because of the failure of the 32X. I think people were like just done with Sega and the way that they kind of managed all that stuff. So the Dreamcast was kind of DOA, honestly. It had a better chance in Japan, but for the most part, it was pretty much DOA when it launched here in North America. All I'm saying, I love the old school stuff. We had a shop in my old town where you could play Pac-Man and Asteroids and other arcade games. It was 24/7. Oh, you were 24, so you were always there. That's awesome. Yeah, to this day, I still love whenever I have a chance to check out, like, any kind of arcade or whatever. It's just so much fun to go back in time and experience those things. I love, another thing I really love too, that you could never recreate at home, is the old school pinball games. I mean, I spent so much time on that Addams Family pinball machine. I couldn't tell you how much time I've spent on it, but so many fond memories. Attack on Mars is another great one that I had fond memories on. And like I said, you cannot experience that at home the same way. So any chance I have to play like those old school pinball machines, oh, I jump on it as much as possible. AKB saying Dreamcast was a great platform. So many great games on that system. Sony PS2 hype and unfortunately pricey hurt its longevity. Yeah, it was pricey. I will agree to that for sure. It was an expensive system for the time, but so was the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 wasn't that much cheaper, but I think just everyone who just loved the PlayStation, the first one, they didn't even want to bother giving the Dreamcast a chance. They were like, oh, well, I could buy the Dreamcast now or wait 5-6 months because the PlayStation 2 is coming out. I'll just wait. And that's what everyone did. So it is what it is. Arnold saying the first Street Fighter destroyed my friendship with two friends. Uh-oh. The game that broke friendships. That does happen, huh? I think yeah, those fighting games can be very tumultuous amongst people, especially with your friends and all that. But yeah, it's funny when you think about how those things can be effective. I just remember like the rivalries that you can create during like these fighting games. It's so funny to watch. Sometimes people lose their heads and everything. But yeah, Dreamcast. If you have a chance, I think it's not that difficult to emulate these days. Download an emulator, download RetroArch. I believe that supports Dreamcast. Try a game or two. A Crazy Taxi was another fun game on that system. A very almost one-to-one port of the arcade version. Brilliant game. Just there again, so many fun titles on that. I believe for a long time they had that Resident Evil exclusive, right? They had what was that, Codename Veronica? I believe that was exclusive to Dreamcast for a while before it went on to other platforms. But yeah, a lot of great games for that system. Oh, Piracy, AKB. Sorry. Did I read that wrong? I did. I'm sorry. I totally misread that. Yeah, Piracy. Dreamcast was so quick to get modded. I think it took only a couple months, honestly, until they figured it out. They figured out some sort of loophole through the modem that they were able to kind of bypass some of the security, or I should say lack of security on the Sega Dreamcast. And to copy, and once they figured out how to like unload the games from the GD-ROM onto like a computer and to burn them just easily on a CD, it was pretty much game over for them. Yeah. But again, you would think like, oh, I could pirate these things, then I need a system, right? You would think more people would have bought systems for that, but even that, it didn't lead to people buying systems just so they could buy like bootlegs and all that. So I felt like that was just a small part of the community that enjoyed it for that. I mean, I'll admit I was part of it, but I still, I would still buy the games if I loved playing them, because there's nothing beats having a physical copy of that game, so like I said, it is what it is. It was a very weird time for the industry, almost kind of like what it is now. I feel like the video game industry is in a weird state right now, and I feel like that was also a weird time for the industry, and something that we never thought we would see, where there was like a lull, between systems. And even when the PlayStation 2 came out, what did you play? There wasn't much of anything to play on that thing. It took a while for that system to ramp up in time. But then when it did, oh boy, did it ever. And there was like no turning back after that. So I was saying, I can remember I was 5 years old. My dad bought me a PlayStation 1. We don't have all the money at the time. I never forget this moment. I love moments like that. Yeah. And the PlayStation 1 is definitely one of those generational systems that no one will ever forget once you have a moment to sit down and play with it. Or if you're part of that time when that came out, that is definitely a moment in time. And that's why Astrobot is amazing, because Astrobot pays so much homages to the original PlayStation. Is it homages or play a lot of homage? Whatever. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not drunk yet. But even when you start the game up and you select a save slot, it's a freaking PlayStation 1 memory card that you have to select. I mean, how brilliant is that? It's amazing. It's amazing. And again, it's a game that I'm gushing over that I haven't even played yet. Just watching other people play, it looks like it's going to be a blast. So I can't wait to try it myself. Yeah. All right, so that's my little tribute to this day in the history of video games. So let's go into now the weekend box office breakdown. A lot of interesting and good news for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. And I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about as far as how well this movie did overall. So no surprise, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice claimed the #1 spot over the weekend at the box office. $111 million opening weekend. This basically landed the third best opening weekend of the year. Internationally, I think it didn't do so crazy. Only 36 million internationally, leaving its overall worldwide box office at 147 million. But still an amazing feat for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. If we look at some of the records that it broke, let me read this article here from Dark Horizons. The sequel to the 1988 classic pulled in $42 million on Saturday, effectively even with its opening day Friday plus Wednesday and Thursday preview hauls. As a result, you see here, blah, blah, blah. So here are some of the records here. The second best opening ever in September, behind the movie that came out, I want to say 2015. Don't quote me on that. But it still holds the #1 record for a movie opening in the month of September. So Beetlejuice is the second best opening in September. It's the second highest opening for Tim Burton ever in his career. Third best in 2024 overall. And its domestic debut has outgrossed the first film's entire $75 million box office haul at the global box office. The film debuted, and it says here, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Plus, another record, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Alien Romulus has passed $300 million worldwide, which is huge for that movie. So, yeah, Beetlejuice, again, no big surprise that this movie was top of the town. The juice was loose all over the box office. And, yeah, when I went, again, for air horn, when I went to the theater Sunday night, last night, there was still a good amount of people going to watch this movie, you know. So I could see that a lot of people really looking forward to seeing this movie. Mostly, I will say this, I'll be honest, mostly because of nostalgia, you know, mostly because a lot of people remember the original movie. I remember watching the original movie in the theater and just loving it and all that, you know. And I'll talk more about my thoughts and feelings of the movie as a whole. But nice to see that, you know, Michael Keaton was able to finally bring back one of his favorite characters that he said he's ever played. So that owning the top of the box office there. Coming in second, Deadpool and Wolverine still hanging in there strong, doing $7 million worth of business over the past weekend. Domestic toll is now up to $613.8 million. Worldwide, $1.2 million. Still amazing feat for that movie, but still hasn't beat Inside Out 2 yet, and I don't think it will ever do that. New movie, Reagan, that came out the previous week, came in third place. I have a feeling a lot of people are watching this because it is an election season, so a lot of political stuff going around. This is the story of Ronald Reagan. I believe Dennis Quaid plays Ronald Reagan in this. $4.8 million, 18.1 domestically overall. And like I said, Alien Romulus, 3.9 million domestically over the weekend, 97.2 million here overall domestically. Worldwide, $314.1 million. I think it's safe to say this is probably one of the best performing Alien movies ever to come out. And honestly, in my opinion, I think it's very much well-deserved. I really enjoyed this movie. I think if you are a fan of Alien, you will enjoy this movie too, even though there's going to be some things that you may question and you may be like, why did they decide to do that? Again, I talked all about my thoughts and feelings on Alien. I'm planning to clip that review out and post it on the channel soon, so you don't have to go through a 2-hour, 3-hour long stream, even though you should, because it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of fun entertainment and excitement in it. So make sure you do that. It ends with us. The domestic violence movie, is it right to be calling that? Starring Blake Lively, is in fifth place, $3.7 million over the weekend, $141.3 million. Again, even though I'm kind of joking a little bit about it, it is a movie that has outperformed people's expectations this year, so it is well deserving of a major recognition for that. A movie called The Forge, $3 million over the weekend. I have no idea what this movie is, but it's $20.8 million overall. Twister is still doing well at the box office, surprisingly enough, even though it is available on digital now. Pulling in $2.1 million, $264.5 million overall domestically. The reason why I think it's still making money is because of people watching it in IMAX or 4DX. It's still one of those movies you should experience in the theater. This Channing Tatum, Blink Twice, kind of, what do you call it? Previously titled Pussy Island, 2 million over the weekend domestically, 20.2 million. This is also Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut movie, so that is still in the top 10 here. Despicable Me 4 coming in at ninth, 1.8 million, 357.9 million. I don't need to go into worldwide because, again, major numbers that this movie did overall. And the last, rounding out the top 10, Brandy's new horror movie, A24, The Front Room, pulling in $1.6 million here domestically. This is one of those movies that I'm sure was made on a very low budget. A24, you know how they handle their movies. It's nice to see Brandy come back on the big screen. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm planning to finally watch it this week. So I will give my thoughts on it. I haven't heard much about it. I don't know who saw it. We don't even have any international numbers for it. But it does look really interesting. It does play a lot on kind of the religion and kind of, Satanism and all those things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what this movie really, truly is about when I have a chance to finally go see it. So there you go. So that is the weekend box office there. Beetlejuice again, slaying it and killing it, running its juices all over the box office. So I'm curious who here has seen it. As I said, I saw it last night. I'll be giving my thoughts and review about it in a little bit. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are about Beetlejuice and its performance over the weekend. Let me catch up with some of the chats now. AKB saying The Bouncer, yay! My God, who remembers that game? What a disastrous game that was. Arnold saying I'll never forget the old ports now at these days, all HDMI, but back then it was 3 colors. Yes, it was the composite and component, but mostly composite. When it was yellow was video, white was audio, and if you're lucky, they had the red for left and right audio. So, but yeah. AKBC Beetlejuice Slade. Arnold, I think the new Lion King will be up there. I think so too. I don't know. We'll see. But I think it will do well at the box office. My thing now, after seeing Beetlejuice, is how much legs will it have? Lucky enough, there's not a lot of major movies opening this week. A lot of smaller movies that may draw some attention from people. But I could still see Beetlejuice possibly being number 1 at the box office this upcoming weekend, but you're going to see a dramatic dip in revenue. I think we're going to see a potentially 60% drop in box office revenue from this weekend. So we'll see what happens, but this is just my strong feeling and gut feeling there. Jester's back. What's going on, Jester? Nice to see you here. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you're having a great day and a great start for your week so far. Did you see the trailer for the A24 movie Y2K? I did. I actually I reacted to it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. It looks fun. It looks kind of silly. What was that? Rachel Zegler is in it, right? It looks interesting. Again, anything A24 does, I usually get excited for, and I'm always willing to support it. It's like one of those like horror comedies, right? So that could be a lot of fun. Jester, what did you think about it? And Jester, did you watch Beetlejuice over the weekend? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Beetlejuice. Let's see. Now, since we're talking about Beetlejuice, I wanted to talk about something that really bothered the hell out of me. So Arnold saying, "Oh, Arnold, you did see Beetlejuice. Very funny, 4 out of 5. Well, look at that. Nice rating from Arnold there." Since we're talking about Beetlejuice again, I was getting myself ready for the new movie to come out. I think it was kind of a while since I watched the original movie. So the 4K Blu-ray that I have right here was on sale. I believe it was on sale for, I think I paid $12 for this, right? And I realized that I don't own it at all in any physical media format, which is strange for me not to have it. Or maybe that's not right. Maybe I do own it on Laserdisc, but I don't think I own a DVD of this. So I said, you know what? Let me buy it. It's $12. I've been wanting to watch the movie again, so I watched it. Holy shit. The 4K Ultra HD version of it is terrible. It has so much kind of smoothing and color correction to the point where it looks dark, and the faces look like someone used an AI filter to smooth out all the faces, where it just looked very unnatural. I believe I watched like the first 10 minutes and I stopped. I said, I can't watch this. It doesn't look like I'm watching the original movie at all. It was just terrible. So lucky enough, this DVD set came with just the original Blu-ray. So when I popped the Blu-ray in, I was like, now this is more like it. It was bright. The colors were back, right? The film grain was back. Nothing was all smoothed out and texture-wise. Everything looked natural, like I was watching it in the theater back in the day. The audio was even better, in my opinion. I was like, what the hell are they doing with these 4K remasters and all that? I know there's been a lot of controversy with the Aliens remaster and a lot of the James Cameron stuff, like True Lies and all that. And, you know, to the certain point, I was just not really paying so much attention to it. I was just like, oh, that's unfortunate and all that, you know. But I wasn't thinking it was going to affect a lot of other movies outside of that realm. But man, when I popped this sucker in, I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with it. I was like, what did they do with this movie? Again, lucky enough for me that the Blu-ray was included. So if it wasn't for that, I probably would have ended up trying to return this thing because it is crap. It is majorly bullshit. So I'm gonna think more clear, and I'll think twice whether or not I go into buying a 4K remastered of any older movie. Newer movies, I think, are fine because newer movies, they account for a lot of that stuff. But what they tried to do with like older movies, at least for this one, it was bullshit. It was total bullshit. So I just had to vent about that because that is just stupid crap. Just saying, I think I will like Y2K, but no, I have not seen Beetlejuice yet. I'm actually watching Beetlejuice for the first time right now. What? That's amazing, Jester. I'm constantly being envious of you because you are watching a lot of these things for the very first time. That is so exciting. It is so exciting to hear. It's amazing. I can't wait to hear your reaction about it. But you did this recently also with The Crow, right? So such fun times, man. I'm so excited for you. Jester saying, I watched Reservoir Dogs for the first time yesterday. What did you think about that? Quentin Tarantino's first movie, which I actually saw after Pulp Fiction. I watched Pulp Fiction first. That was my first Quentin Tarantino movie I saw when it was available to rent on VHS back in the day. So I watched that, fell in love with it, and I had to go back and watch Reservoir Dogs, which I also loved. 8.2 out of 10 for Reservoir Dogs. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. I'm glad you enjoyed it because that is definitely a classic. That is a classic movie. Hold on. Just give me 1 second here. How am I looking on vertical right now, guys? Am I glitching? Am I lagging? Because it's looking kind of weird to me right now from my preview window. Let me know what you think, guys. Arnold, you're on vertical. Let me know if the video's off in a way. I'm not sure why it would be. So yeah. I'll wait to hear from you guys and let me know how I'm looking at like in the vertical stream before I continue. Honestly, I don't know what's going on with me. I hear it perfectly, but the picture is completely, it looks like lag. That's so weird. I wonder why that's happening. I mean, everything looking fine on my end. I have no dropped frame rates at all. Oh, on my preview, it looked like it just corrected itself. I wonder if it was like a YouTube hiccup. Jester saying also watched Good Will Hunting for the first time 3 days ago. Wow. That's another classic movie. That was the movie that got Ben Affleck and Matt Damon their Oscar, I think. Did they win the Oscar for that? I can't remember. But that was the first time they collaborated and wrote something together. That is another great movie. How do you like them apples? So, Jester, how did you like them apples? What would you rate that movie? Arnold saying now it's good. Jester say they want. So yeah, they did win the Oscar for that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a movie I haven't seen in a very long time. Very long time. Looks good. Okay, cool. Glad to see that everything is looking good and everything somehow course corrected itself. I guess it's a YouTube may have had a hiccup there. See, another reason why vertical just doesn't work, guys. Jess is saying it is in my top 3 movies coming on at a solid 9.8 out of 10. There you go. There you go. Great to hear. Jester, do you have a Letterboxd? You should start logging your stuff on Letterboxd. Arnold saying, if you can choose an Oscar, in which category would you like one? Me? For me to win an Oscar? Oh man, I don't know. You know what? If I were in the industry, let's say I went back in time and I kind of redid my career trajectory, and let's say I put a lot of focus on working in the industry and doing movies and working in movies, I think I would love to win an Oscar for editing. Because I do enjoy editing. There's something that I just have so much fun in video editing. Yeah, that's why it kind of kills me that I haven't done much of that recently because of how busy I've been. But I love editing. Best sex scene? I don't think they have an Oscar for that.
I'm gonna come.
Oh, Jester, you do have a Letterboxd. Well, awesome. What's your name on there? So maybe I can give you a follow. Because I'm on Letterboxd too, under the LOWKEY GEEK, one word. Make sure you follow on Letterboxd to see my... The last 2 movies, The Crow and Beetlejuice, I haven't logged immediately just because I've been busy. But I usually log it there first before I talk about it here on the channel. So just waiting to hear from good old Jester there. How else is everyone doing? I hope everyone else is doing fine. We're going to be talking about more Beetlejuice stuff. I'm going to give my kind of review and thoughts on the movie as a whole. Also, something funny, an article I came across that I totally forgot about, talking about what could have been the potential sequel to Beetlejuice. Something that was kind of like floating around back in the day. So my least favorite site, IGN, actually wrote an article about it. So it's one of the rare times I will actually go on IGN to check something else. But yeah, I'll talk about this article here. One thing I do want to quickly talk about, and again, you know, this has been like the crazy year for the popcorn buckets and the popcorn craze, or the popcorn container craze at movie theaters, right? I think it's great for movie theaters. This is how they're making extra money. It's amazing how many people have jumped on board this whole popcorn bucket craze and all that. Even last night when I went to the theater, I heard people saying, "Hey, do you still have that popcorn bucket?" And there was a lot of them asking for that stuff. So like with any other major movie this year, of course, Beetlejuice was going to have some sort of special popcorn bucket, right? They had one that was the sandworm that was wrapped around to make it a bucket, and the heads kind of like at the top with the multiple heads coming out. Unfortunately, Regal was sold out of that. I don't know what offerings they had at AMC, but Regal did have something that I had to jump on, because not only is it a popcorn quote-unquote container, but it just looks like it would be a fun collectible to have hanging in the background and all that. Very much like the baby pool Deadpool thing. And this is a fantastic thing. Not cheap. It was 40 bucks. All right. I cringed when I paid for it. But it did come with a free large popcorn, so at least I couldn't complain about that. But they did. And like I said, they're getting very, very detailed and very, very amazing with these things. Look at this. Can you believe that this is a popcorn container? It's the Tombstone replica. The Beetlejuice Tombstone replica from the original movie. And you could also see it in the brand new movie too. Can you believe this? And not only that, but this sucker lights up. Wait. Uh-oh. Can you see it? Oh, maybe it's too bright. Or maybe the batteries are dead. What the hell? Well, it looks like the batteries are dead. What the flying F? Good job, Regal. Well, anyway, this arrow lights up. But even if it doesn't light up, this thing looks fantastic. So I couldn't help myself. I had to grab myself one of these things. And in the back, this is where, again, this is so not practical in my opinion. This is where the popcorn goes, right in here. Now, I could see this being useful for like candy. You know, I love peanut M&Ms. So I could see myself putting like peanut M&Ms in here and like eating candy out of this thing. But popcorn? No. That is just an excuse so that they could sell this thing as a popcorn related piece of merchandise. But at the end of the day, this just looks like a fun thing to like have in the background. You know, when I set up the new quote unquote studio in the next couple of months, you will see this in the background of all my videos. But this looks fantastic, and the detail is freaking gorgeous. As John Hammond would say in Jurassic Park, they spared no expense on this bad boy. So, very, very cool. But yeah, not practical at all. Again, I don't understand how anyone can attempt to want to put popcorn in this thing. Plus, I can't believe it has this tab to save the battery, but the battery don't work. Oh, well. And it takes like those watch batteries, so I'm going to have to like purchase those because I don't have any extra around. Ah! Don't hurt my Beetlejuice! So yeah. So it's funny though. It's like, you know, sometimes you go see a lot of these companies that do a lot of these like these movie replicas and all that. And something like that from another company could easily go for like 300 bucks, right? I believe one of the newest things I seen to celebrate Beetlejuice was this company did a replica of the whorehouse from the first movie, if you remember. I think it was called like Dante's Inferno or something like that. It lights up and everything, and they're selling that for 300 freaking bucks. For this just to be 40 bucks and include a large bucket of popcorn, I'm cool with that. I think it's worth the price. It's worth the price of admission for something like that. Jester saying, I'm doing so well in high school. I have an audio, video tech, and film class, and I got 100. Oh, Jester! Congratulations, Jester. That's awesome, dude. Also, what a very cool high school for you to have an audio, video tech, and film class in there. If my high school had one of those type of classes, I would be all over that thing. So good for you. AKB says, yeah, not practical, but very cool. I agree. Your name on Letterboxd is Goals Jester. Oh, very much like your name here. All right. I will follow you. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. So as I do that, enjoy some music as I do that right now before I forget, because I don't want to forget. I also encourage anyone who are big fans of movies to sign up for a Letterboxd account, because it is a great way to kind of track the movies you've watched, rate the movies you've watched, you know, all those things. There you go. I see your review of Good Will Hunting. Amazing script, more than experimental editing, and a phenomenal performance from the cast. I totally agree. So there you go, Jester. You now have a follower in the Low-Key Geek. That is me. Also, if you're watching live, again, a reminder, hit that like button. Thank you. Why did I sound like Nicolas Cage just now? Hit that like button. So technically, when my mom tells me to stop watching movies all the time, I'm studying. Hell yeah, you are. Oops, wrong button. That's right. Mom, I'm doing research. I'm studying. You know, imagine working in the game industry, and that's the excuse I would give all the time. I'm doing research. All right, before I go into my review of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, let me talk about this interesting article here from IGN. Again, not my favorite company, not my favorite site. But anyway, I thought this was interesting because this was something that I remember from back in the day that was like a big rumor. But you know, it was not something that eventually came into fruition. But Beetlejuice Beetlejuice at one point had a potential sequel that was called Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, which is really, really funny when you think about it. But this was like legit. This was true. So, hold on, sorry. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. That's what Warner Brothers was shouting all the way to the bank back in 1988. The studio was keen to capitalize on the newly minted pop culture icon, and so various ideas were floated for a sequel, the most infamous of which was entitled Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, a name that has struck cringe in the hearts of fans for years. But here's the thing, I'm more than willing to say it could have been great. Consider director Tim Burton's filmography. It's full of ideas that seemed diametrically opposed. A Frankenstein-esque monster with scissor hands adjusting to life in bubblegum suburbia, a Halloween takeover for Christmas, and a hero's journey in the search of his bicycle, just to name a few. Again, of course, they are referencing Edward Scissorhands. What is that? Is that Nightmare Before Christmas? And Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Perhaps Beetlejuice could have pulled off a similar trick in Hawaii. Today, as the sequel finally approaches Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, we're going to breach the development limbo that trapped the unlikely Beetlejuice follow-up, the quirky subgenre that was a shockingly perfect fit, and why the Hawaiian script had Burton so juiced up. So slap on your swimsuits because we're diving headfirst into the putrid waters of Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. Beetlejuice and being too weird to exist. Beetlejuice is such a specific movie, there's really nothing else like it. Its combination of gothic horror, romance, and comedy coming together on the screen in a blend of truly unique to Tim Burton, and frankly, it's surprising that such a unicorn even exists. Even the studios were dubious. So how do we get it made in the first place? Following the massive success of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which pulled in $40 million on a $7 million budget, I can't believe, when you look at the movies back in the day, $7 million to make Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That's fantastic. And it made $40 million. Burton had his pick of what his next project would be, and so Warner Brothers invited the filmmaker to direct their next big theatrical hit, Hot to Trot, starring John Candy as a talking horse. Who remembers that movie? Holy cow, what a mess of a movie that was. I mean, I love John Candy, but boy, oh boy. Burton hard pass on that one, thank goodness. Setting his sights a little higher, specifically on the bat signal in the skies above gloomy Gotham City. The studio, however, wasn't quite sold on Burton's dark gothic take on the Cape Crusader just yet. But soon after getting the brush off for his Batman idea, Burton came across a strange little script called Beetlejuice, courtesy of producer David Geffen. We all know the 1988 original like the back of our skulls, the Maitlands, and just gives you a little bit of the movie synopsis and all that. A couple of people said to us, Larry Wilson recalled to Yahoo, do you really think that's a good idea? Is that really the message you want to be sending to the teenagers of the world? Die in a fire? The early drafts featured darker elements that were eventually smoothed out for a lighter, more comedic tone, befitting the works of Burton to the date. When the final draft came around to the ending we all know, the Dietzes cohabitating with the Maitlands, Wilson began to fantasize about what these characters might endure while living with the dead, and thus the seed of a sequel was planted. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the original Beetlejuice movie had a different ending altogether. So basically what we're recapping the paragraph above, it says, when the Maitlands fail to scare the Dietzes out of the house, the ghosts seek the aid of the mischievous and unpredictable bio-exorcist, and in the original screenplay from Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson, the plan culminates in a supernatural wedding showdown in which Lydia dies tragically in a fire, joining the Maitlands in a happily ever after life. So what happens, of course, in the movie that we all got, the wedding was averted. The Maitlands was able to get rid of Beetlejuice. Everyone was saved. Plus, they learned now how to live with the dead. There was a new book that was created and all that, which I'll get into during my review of the movie. But I think exploring more of that kind of world where the living and dead can cohabitate would have been fun to see carried out. Here, quote, Mr. Dietzes would have developed a crush on Gina Davis's character, said Wilson. That would have been my idea. It would have been driven by character and not driven by a premise. You can see the potential there. Sequels dictate a world expansion to make room for the new story. Marital strife might facilitate a netherworld marriage counselor, one who specializes in dead-end relationships, of course, and what bureaucratic rules might be at play. Given how marriage is seemingly important in the world as it is for some reason, the only way Beetlejuice can get out of the afterlife. It would have been great to get some clarity on that, but Wilson's idea never grew into a first draft. Advertising. Okay, now here we go. Although the original Beetlejuice was a smash success for writers Wilson and McDowell, they didn't achieve the final draft by themselves. By 1988, Burton believed his writers were burnt out, and so he brought in a fresh fighter in the form of script doctor Warren Scarron, who, according to Burton, made significant contributions. Quote, originally Lydia, the key character in many ways, the portal for so many people, had a sister. Burton said in his book, Burton on Burton, she was the goth, the sister was the straight one. Warren got rid of the sister, and what a good decision, because when it all became about Lydia, that's the change I remember most vividly. Scarron also played a major role in defining the Beetlejuice character. He mined Native American trickster archetypes to transform the character from a humorless, murderous winged demon in the early drafts into a scene-stealing, maniacal scoundrel. According to Alison Mankor's biography of the journeyman script doctor, tweaking the ghost with the most was a highlight for Scarron. Quote, he was proud of helping shape a character who, on the page in some of those early drafts, had been unlikable and not accessible at all to the average viewer, end quote. There's no surprise Scarron harbored a lot of love for the character, nor is it that the studio charged him with writing a sequel that he titled Beetlejuice in Love. That script likely drew inspiration from Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera, which hit Broadway the same year Beetlejuice arrived in theaters. In Scarron's sequel, Beetlejuice has a new mark, Leo, an opera singer who tragically dies while proposing to his girlfriend Julia. When Leo enters the afterlife, Beetlejuice manipulates the star-crossed lover into an opportunity to return to the mortal world where he can get hitched. What ensues is a madcap melodrama that ends with the singer reincarnated as a baby and put into his girlfriend's care. Now, reading a lot of this stuff right now, it kind of reminds me of some of the things that I kind of saw in this new movie. And again, I'll talk about that a little later. By 1990, though, Burton had his hands full 1 year into producing the Beetlejuice cartoon and knee deep in the dark alleys of Gotham with Batman Returns, and Warren Scarn passed away shortly after finishing his draft of Beetlejuice in Love, a script that, needless to say, joined the dusty halls of the undeveloped. And so just 2 years after the original hit, there was no clear picture of what a follow-up to Beetlejuice might be. Excuse me. So, likely the determined titular Ghost with the Most, however, the idea of a Beetlejuice sequel wouldn't stay buried. As far as the studio was concerned, there was still gold in them dar hills in the early 90s, and if another writer could pan some of that treasure, the possibility was still shaking its bloody line, as Harry Belafonte would have. According to Burton's collaborator and uncredited Batman writer Jonathan Gems, quote, Tim thought it would be funny to match the surfing backdrop of a beach movie with some sort of German expressionism because they're totally wrong together, end quote. It sounds like if they were to take Beetlejuice and put it into like the world of Gidget. If anyone even remembers Gidget, the TV show. Given Burton's track record, that makes absolute sense. The clash between bleak and tattered monochrome with bright and whimsical colors has always been a trademark of Burton's style, one that hadn't always been met with understanding. Burton's ideas have a long history of encountering skepticism with projects deemed risky by studio execs and marketing departments. In fact, the only reason Edward Scissorhands ended at 20th Century Fox was because Warner Brothers dropped the project, fearing it was too weird for broad appeal. Boy, were they wrong. Tim Burton's love for the unconventional proved a linchpin in his professional relationship with Gems, a British playwright whose works bore titles like The Tax Exile, Naked Robots, The Paranormalist, and Susan's Breast. Susan's Breast! What movie was that? The play's blended satire. Oh, it's a play. Okay. The play's blended satire and dark comedy, prompting Burton to bring Gems on as a contributor to the Batman script, where Gems saw firsthand how Burton could blend contrasting elements. From there, Gems was willing to take a leap on the strange alchemy of Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian and began trying to flesh out this wild hair of a concept into a script. Gems' premise is pretty straightforward. A few years after the events of the first film, the Dietz family travels to Hawaii to develop a luxury resort, which in itself is weird because with how morbid the Dietz can be, why would you want to open up a resort in Hawaii? That just sounds really weird already from the start. Which disturbs the island's ancient spirits, prompting an opportunity for Beetlejuice to return. The story is told from the point of view of Lydia once again, but the script gives a lot more screen time to the afterlife's leaning bio-exorcist compared to the 17 minutes he gets in the original film. In fact, Gems' sequel begins with a day in the life of Beetlejuice. Still stuck in the afterlife, he shares an apartment with his wife, Rita, a burn victim with 9 fingers who Beetlejuice denigrates and humiliates. The script expands on the world of the afterlife as he commutes to his lowly janitorial job in a ghoulish supermarket. Why do ghosts need a supermarket? I don't know, but they've got one. The netherworld's misery, however, gives way to the bright landscape of Hawaii. To pull this combination off, Gems looked to a particular slice of 1960s cinema of inspiration, the lively subgenre of the beach party movie. Again, just like the TV show Gidget, or those movies with, who's that Mouseketeer? Or the Mouseketeer? Annette and the other dude. I remember watching a lot of those movies when I was growing up. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian hangs 10 on the tropes found in beach party movies. These films often portray teenagers as independent and fun-loving, seeking adventure and romance away from the watchful eyes of adults. This wave of teen-centric films kicked off with Gidget. Thank you! I know exactly what I'm talking about. In 1959, a young girl's journey of self-discovery amidst the backdrop of a male-dominated surf culture, while Gidget laid the foundation. It was beach party movie starring Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello. That's exactly who I was trying to think of. That truly honed the genre's signature tropes, breezy romances, catchy musical numbers, and comical antics. And this is where Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian starts to make a weird amount of sense. Romance, musical numbers, and comical antics make up some of the best scenes of the original film. The beach party backdrop amplifies what the original already established. The original Beetlejuice features a plot of forced matrimony, and so the sequel further complicates the same marital plot with a more tangled romantic web befitting of a teen beach romp. Rita desperately seeks Beetlejuice's affection, but he still pines for Lydia, who has eyes for an idealistic surfer named Chemo. Later in the script, Beetlejuice charms Lydia enough that it becomes plausible that they could have a real connection, despite his perversions and, general overall grossness. It's got the same emotional stakes as the 1961 sequel, Gidget Goes Hawaiian, where she's torn between the boy next door and the wealthy vacationer. Much like the dynamic of Lydia's relationships with her parents, the beach party genre generally depicts adults as antagonistic to the wants of the youth. In 1964's Bikini Beach, the beach gang faces off against a wealthy industrialist, Harvey Huntington Honeywagon. What a name, Triple H. It's time to play the game, y'all. Let's see. Who views them as a public nuisance and an embodiment of generational moral decline. Honeywagon's primary goal is to reclaim the beach and convert it into retirement community. Similarly, Chemo and his friends protest at Dietz's lavish hotel. When they can't get a meeting with Mr. Dietz, they resort to kidnapping him, landing them in jail. So bogus. But rebellion not only plays a part in the beach's genre's interpersonal conflicts, it also plays into the character's inner growth as well. Lydia, now in college and feeling directionless, is given an arc of self-discovery. First, she rebels against her family's greed to save the island. She seeks out a local shaman and harness supernatural powers of her own. Then astral projects into the netherworld, and she kind of does like a Doctor Strange thing, I guess, where she journeys to find Beetlejuice and scores him a new bioexorcist license. In exchange, he agrees to help save the island, all under an ironclad contract Lydia writes to protect her from another sham wedding. It's an empowering arc that shows how much she has matured since the first film. Beetlejuice, on the other hand, hasn't matured one iota. He conjures a bikini bombshell to get between Lydia and Chemo. He transforms both himself and Lydia into mermaids for a date at sea, and even stars in his own self-serving musical number. When none of that works, he makes a sleazy deal with the local spirits and slips her a love potion, breaking his contract and landing her in yet another marital kidnapping plot. The madcap schemes that play out during Beetlejuice's romantic pursuits feel like direct pulls from Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello's Beach Party series, all of which crank up the tropes set by Gidget to levels of genuine absurdity. The alluring beach girl is instead a mysterious mermaid. The complicated surf trick becomes a skydiving publicity stunt, and the manly outcast becomes a biker whose finger has the power to paralyze. If that isn't absurd enough, 1965's How to Stuff a Wild Bikini features a shaman played by Buster Keaton, who conjures a magical bikini-clad woman to keep other guys away from Frankie Avalon's girlfriend. There's a lot of inspiration coming from a lot of these old movies. It's crazy. And like I said, I'm reading a lot of stuff from this, long defunct script that kind of reminds me of a lot of things that I saw in this new movie. Beetlejuice's finger-snapping magic doesn't seem out of place in a genre like that. It seems perfectly reasonable for him to disguise himself as Texas tycoon Monty Exxon and earn the Dietz's approval by winning a surf competition. Oh my God. The more and more I read this, the more I actually want to see this movie now. With Lydia firmly under Beetlejuice's spell, the script digs up the original film's wedding climax, this time with a Blue Hawaii makeover. But wait, if the sequel doesn't feature the Maitlands, who's going to stop the wedding? Sounds like the perfect time for another beach party trope, the celebrity cameo. Beetlejuice's mother interrupts the ceremony to stop her son from foolishly breaking Lydia's contract, which would have been met with netherworld punishment worse than death. It's a deus ex machina ripe for a celebrity cameo. Bette Midler? Shirley MacLaine? Kathleen Turner would have been great. Again, these are all, if you think about the time, early 90s, mid 90s, all of these would be major potentials for a nice cameo within that time. So I think that would have been awesome. The script climaxes with Beetlejuice making do on his contract by raising hell on the island, scaring the rich tourists away, which, while an obvious narrative necessity, actually plays with another beach party trope, the chaotic fight scene. But while these films would cartoonishly tear up a small set, Burton would have gotten the chance to indulge in even more puppetry and animation than the original. As wild as the script was, Burton was interested in developing it further. Impressed with Daniel Waters' work on Heathers, Burton approached him for a round of rewrites. Ultimately, however, he instead signed Waters to write the script for Batman Returns. A lot of crazy, it's a major, huge journey for Tim Burton during this whole time. It's really fascinating to read it as it played out. Beetlejuice is banished back in the Netherworld in the Gems Pen sequel, where he mistakenly drinks the love potion intended for Lydia and falls head over heels for his wife, who no longer has to fight for his affection, which is a happy ending. It's an ending for sure. Gems, however, soon left the project in order to focus on a different Burton collaboration, Mars Attacks. By August 1993, I just had a train that sounded like the train from Beetlejuice. Anyway, producer David Geffen hired Pamela Norris of Troop Beverly Hills and Saturday Night Live to do a rewrite. Then Warner Brothers approached Kevin Smith in 1996, who turned it down in favor of Superman Lives, which of course never happened either. And in March 1997, Gems drove the final nail in the coffin, telling Fangoria, God, Fangoria, remember that magazine? The following, quote, "The Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian script is still owned by the Geffen Company, and it will likely never get made. You really couldn't do it now anyway. Winona is too old for the role, and the only way they could make it would be to totally recast it," end quote. Or could this now be the potential sequel, Beetlejuice 3? Who knows? Could be. We'll see. Or, as the article continues, just wait another 2 decades and make a completely different sequel. It's Hollywood, babes. Momentum is a fickle beast, and taking a risk like putting Beetlejuice into a surfing contest is a rare thing indeed. On the surface, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian sounds like a total misfire of an idea. No, it doesn't. I think in today's landscape, this sounds brilliant. Also during that time too, because remember there was a lot of like those weird parody movies based off of old shows. Like one great example is the Brady Bunch movie. The Brady Bunch movie played on a lot of tropes from the show, but also included modern day stuff. I think doing something like that with Beetlejuice would have been brilliant, I think, in my opinion. On the surface, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian sounds like but there's no denying that the sequel would have contributed to the world building of the afterlife, given a bold new arc for Lydia, and continued Burton's legacy of mixing polarizing aesthetics while drawing inspiration from niche genres of the past. It's all much more sensible than any internet forum might have you believe. Beetlejuice will probably never get the full Hawaiian treatment. All we can do is sip a fruity cocktail, snack on some roaches, and use our imagination, and that is the end of the article. So I don't know. I think if this movie was attempted to be made during the time it was written, mid 90s, I think it had potential to maybe fail, because a lot of those things that happened around that time appear to be hokey, right? And like I said, certain things would work and certain things wouldn't. You know, Weekend and Bernie's was one of those movies that no one ever thought could work. And it wasn't like a big box office smash, but it stayed within pop culture for a very long time. Movies like I mentioned before, the Brady Bunch movie played a lot of those kinds of parodies and all that. But something like this with a beloved pop culture icon that happened so quickly, I don't know, making it into a movie like this probably would have done it disservice. It probably would have fallen into that whole sequel, hell like Ghostbusters 2 kind of saw itself fall into. But then again, you move forward 35 years later, we got Beetlejuice now. And yeah, it did gangbusters on the box office over the weekend, but I don't know how long that's honestly going to sustain. But this does sound like something that could lead into another sequel and just replace Winona Ryder with Jenna Ortega. Because I think that would make a lot of sense, especially with how she was introduced into this whole universe of Beetlejuice. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this idea of Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian? I don't know. The more I read it, the more it kind of sounded like I want to see it. So maybe that's just me. I don't know. But yeah, very interesting. And again, reading this, I remember reading the rumors back in the day in the magazines about Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. I vividly remember all that. And I thought it was crazy. But it's Tim Burton, so I was not surprised in the least. But then again, Tim Burton went on to do Batman and other movies. So I didn't even think twice about it at that time. But it's nice to kind of take that trip back in memory lane. And I think, I think it would have been interesting. I think it would have been interesting if they moved forward with that. It definitely would have still captured the perfect audience at the time because everyone was going nuts with Beetlejuice. Then obviously when Batman hit, everyone was going nuts with not just Batman, Beetlejuice, and all those things, but people were going nuts with Tim Burton. People loved Tim Burton at the time. The mid 90s, late 90s, some of the early 2000s, Tim Burton was beloved by audiences. All of his movies were most anticipated movies. People were wanting to see Tim Burton do whatever he wanted to do. And it was thanks to Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and you think I'm naming these movies now, you kind of forgot, like, wow, he was responsible for a lot of these great hits. And of course, Batman 89. So I'm sure no matter what, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, if they did do this at that time, I think it would have done amazingly well. Would it have been good? I don't know. It is Tim Burton, so you never know what you're going to get. But, I think it's as history says, it's good that they kind of, put a pause on it and it didn't work out so that they could work on things and see what will happen now in the future. And we got what we got now. And for those of you who liked it, you liked it. For those people who didn't like it, didn't like it. But at least we got something, and it just brought back that charm of the character from back in the day. So yeah, it would have been really, really interesting to see. All right. I talked long enough. Let me catch up on some of the chat because I haven't had a chance to really look back, and I'm so sorry. Arnold saying, I love to touch buttons. Lil Saw, what's going on, Lil Saw? Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Star-Lord's in the house. What's going on, Star-Lord? Awesome to see you here as well. Beetlejuice in love. You see, folks, even dead people can find significant others. Sequels always seem to dive into romance. Just look at Adam's Family Values. Yeah, I guess because it's like relatable, right? But even the original Beetlejuice movie had romance in it too, in a way. Kevin Davis, what's going on, Kevin? Always awesome to see you here. Beetlejuice global box office total run prediction 350 to 450. I think it is definitely going to be on the lower end of that for sure. Joker Folly due global 450 550. I could see that, but I'm hearing mixed things coming out of Venice, so who knows? But I think, you know what I'll say? People who love Lady Gaga, all of her little monsters, I think they're going to support this movie big time. Star Wars producing less shows and films. I know, yeah, I saw that article, so I'm going to read about that article a little later. Fans still going to want Kathleen Kennedy gone, but I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest with you. I think Bob Iger is going to step in a lot, and it looks like he's doing that already. Doctor Strange told a ghost, you think you see me? Well, you don't, but I see through you. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Can't see me. Kevin Days, Bo DeMaio pulling the race card and homosexual reason for getting fired. No company going to take risk on hiring him. Yeah, I talked about Bo already, I think a week or two ago, with that whole stuff going back and forth with him in the studios. And now how he's saying that he's going to tell the full story only on his OnlyFans, so you have to subscribe to hear it. I think he should have just remained quiet. I don't know. Again, I don't know what happened. I'm just reading all the stuff that's happening online, all the news outlets. If there was some sort of agreement between him and Marvel to kind of keep quiet and not do anything, he would have still had his credit in season 2. And he probably could have been easily rehired to do other things. But now I feel like he in a way is his own worst enemy, in my opinion. So it's kind of a shame to see because the guy is talented. He wrote a really amazing first season. And I'm looking forward to see what happens in season 2. But yeah, it's kind of weird to see what's going on with that. Let's see. Please don't cancel me, Mr. Ghost. Star-Lord saying. Kevin Davis, Beetlejuice, and Joker Foley adieu. Will be a moderate success for Warner Brothers. David Zaslav going to sell off Warner Brothers eventually, just not right now. I don't know about that. But I'm sure he's looking at all the numbers very closely. If it wasn't for Beetlejuice, Warner Brothers would have had a terrible year, I think. Because even though people are looking forward to Joker, like I said, a lot of bad reception coming out of Venice right now on that movie. I think it's the movie a lot of people are not. IGN, and again, I don't really pay too much attention to IGN's reviews and all that. They gave it a freaking 5 out of 10, and I think Collider, another one, gave it a very low rating too. So I don't know. It that might sway a lot of the audience thoughts on this movie. Star saying Winona should be invented by Edward to be in the new Scissorhands because he got tired of carving her damn ice sculpture. That's actually kind of funny. AKB saying it would have rocked at the time. I think so. Speaking of Beetlejuice going Hawaiian, Lil Saw saying, "Bro, you're everywhere." I am? What does that mean? I don't know. But I'm here. And I am here to rock and roll. Sarla saying it was rumored Johnny Depp wanted to be in Beetlejuice, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know about that. I don't think I recall that rumor, but this was before Tim Burton really started working with Johnny Depp. Because I think the first, well, no, hold on. Edward Scissorhands came out in, so Beetlejuice came out in 94. Edward Scissorhands came out in 96. Let's see. Oh, it came out before that. Oh my God, my years are just all over the place. So Edward Scissorhands came out in 1990, and oh wait, Beetlejuice came out in 89, right? Beetlejuice. Why? Okay. This is so stupid. This goes to show you sometimes how dumb search engines can be. I'm not talking about Google. I'm talking about Bing, Microsoft Bing. I typed in Beetlejuice. Why did it come up as Beetlejuice actor? They're calling Beetlejuice an actor on Bing. All right, good job, Bing. You're an idiot. Beetlejuice came out in 98. Scissorhands came out in 1990. So yeah, Tim Burton. I mean, Johnny Depp was definitely in the purview of Tim Burton stuff for sure. Oh, he wanted to be in Beetlejuice. I see. I'm glad he wasn't. I think I've had enough of the Burton Depp kind of collaboration there. It's kind of went way over its time. So, yeah. Who knows? He might still have the hots for Winona. I think now, because of the success of Beetlejuice, and of course the success of Wednesday, I have a feeling Tim Burton is probably going to want to team up with Jenna Ortega more. So I won't be surprised if you're going to see Jenna Ortega showing up in a lot of future Tim Burton movies. So who knows? That might be his new muse, because Johnny Depp was his muse for the longest time. All right. Hold on. Sorry. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just pulling up some information here so that I can get ready to talk finally about my thoughts about Beetlejuice, having just seen it for the first time last night. By the way, if you're watching live, make sure to hit that like button, y'all. Would greatly appreciate it. Always appreciate your support. Love all of you guys. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. Caleb's in the house. What's going on, Caleb? Always a pleasure seeing you here. Hope you're having a good one. Johnny's retired. No, I don't mean the R word, although they should go hand in hand with Johnny Depp. I think he's still doing stuff, but he doesn't want to do Hollywood stuff anymore. So I won't be surprised if we see him doing a lot of more international film. Caleb, breaking news: James Earl Jones. No, are you serious? Hold on. Is that true? Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Oh man. Oh boy. Here we go. Another icon of our childhood passing away. Oh, how sad. Jeez. Here we go. James Earl Jones. Oh, get out of here. Pop up. James Earl Jones dies. Revered Field of Dreams star, Darth Vader voice, and Broadway regular, was 93. He's 93 years old. I mean, he's lived a pretty good life. Oh, that's sad. James Earl Jones, the revered actor who voiced Star Wars villain Darth Vader, starred in Field of Dreams and many other films on Broadway. He's an EGOT winner. I didn't even know that. Amazing achievement. Died this morning in his home in Dutchess County, New York. He was 93. Oh, that's sad. Widely regarded as among the world's great stage and screen actors, Jones is one of the few entertainers to have won an EGOT. Again, that means Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Though his Academy Award was honorary, Jones has received 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, a Daytime Emmy, a Spoken Word Grammy Award in 1977, and 3 Tony Awards. Man. Let's read more about his history here. The actor amassed nearly 200 screen credits during his brilliant 60-year career, starting with the Stanley Kubrick classic Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb in 1964. He probably is best known for his voice role as the dastardly Darth Vader in George Lucas's original Star Wars trilogy, Star Wars 1977, The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, and Return of the Jedi in 1983. He was also the voice of CNN. You are now watching CNN. I always remember him for that, too. He also reprised the villainous role in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, Star Wars Story in 2016, Star Wars Episode, 9? Rise of Skywalker in 2019. I'm not good with Roman numerals, guys, sorry. And TV's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Star Wars Rebels. Jones also voiced the Lion King's Mufasa in both the 1994 animated pick and 2019 hybrid remake. He also lent his sonorous voice to the famous This Is CNN, yay, promo campaign for the cable news network. I knew it. This is CNN. Born on he shares my birthday, guys. Freaking A, you're right. Born on January 17, 1931. His many big screen credits, also films such as Conan the Barbarian. That was my first exposure to James Earl Jones, was playing the villain in Conan the Barbarian. And I'll never forget, because the first time I saw that movie was on TV. I believe it was here in New York, Channel 11, and it was censored. So I always wondered, why is James Earl Jones's head just lying on the stairs? I didn't know for the longest time until I finally rented it on video that Conan, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, sliced it completely off. And I'll never, oh no, it was on Channel 4 when NBC back in the day used to play movies on weekends. I'll never forget. I was like, why is James Earl Jones just hanging, his head is just hanging out on the side there? I didn't know that the whole time that he was, the head was sliced right off and it just kind of rolled down the stairs. That was my first exposure to James Earl Jones. And then, of course, hearing his voice in Star Wars. Coming to America, great role playing the father of Hakeem. Hakeem? Seme, where is Hakeem? The Hunt for Red October, The Sandlot. He played the, I believe the guy, was he blind? I think he was blind. The guy who lived next door with the giant dog. Patriot Games, Sneakers, played an FBI agent, I think, there. He also appeared on The Simpsons 3 times. He was nominated for a lead actor Oscar for his role in The Great White Hope in 1971 and was given an honorary Oscar at the 2012 ceremony. An 8-time Emmy nominee, his 2 wins both came in 1991. Lead actor in a drama series for Gabriel's Fire and supporting actor in a miniseries or a special for Heat Wave. Also a commanding presence on the Broadway stage, Jones earned 4 competitive Tony Award nominations for Best Actor in a Play, winning twice for his performances as Jack Jefferson in The Great White Hope in 1969 and as Troy Maxson in August Wilson's Fences in 1987, which many years later was made into a film starring Denzel Washington. He received a special Tony Award at 2017 ceremony. He most recently appeared on Broadway in The Gin Game in 2017. September 2022, the Schubert organization rechristened its 110-year-old court theater as the James Earl Jones Theater, with a dedication ceremony attended by Samuel Jackson, LaTanya Richards Jackson, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Norm Lewis, and New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Boo! You can't think of an artist that has served America more, Broadway director Kenny Leon told Associated Press at the time. Jones did not attend the dedication ceremony, but had been given a private tour of the facility the week prior. Jones also was a 2002 Kennedy Center honoree and received Lifetime Achievement Awards from SAG-AFTRA in 2009 and by the National Board of Review in 1995. Yeah, so he lived an amazing life, had an amazing historical career, and definitely an icon of a lot of us growing up. So yeah, R.I.P. to the great James Earl Jones. Wow, unbelievable, what a career. Yeah, AKB, he lived a good life. Also didn't know he was an EGOT. Conan with a sword plus severed head equals. I loved how you got stuck and you didn't know how to finish that, Star-Lord. That was really funny. But yeah, again, it's just one of those times when you hear sad news and it just goes to show you that a lot of people we grew up with, you know, they're getting to that point where we're starting to lose them little by little. You know, James Earl Jones, 93 years old. He didn't do much lately because of his age. I think the only thing that was like a big thing was that I believe it sounded like he gave the okay for his voice to be used, especially in Star Wars as Darth Vader. So I'm sure that's going to be an AI thing we're going to be hearing for years and years to come and all. But yeah, such an iconic voice. Yeah, wasn't he? No, that was Danny Glover. I thought he was in The Color Purple as well. But yeah, amazing career, man. You know, so when you have a chance, go check out one of his pieces of work because there are plenty. There are plenty, and I would say he's definitely one of those actors that never phoned it in. He always gave it his 110%. You know, so he is definitely one of those old school prolific actors that always gave his all in any performance, whether it be a small bit role to a leading role. Always. I've never seen any one performance of his that was shitty. Never. You know, even if it's just a small, like for example, I believe his role in Sneakers, which is a great movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet. It stars who's that? My God. So many people in that movie. To Sir With Love. Who's that guy in To Sir With Love? Oh God. Not Sneakers, the shoe. Stupid. Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd, Sidney Poitier. That's who I was thinking about. River Phoenix was in that too. You know, it was such a great movie. His James Earl Jones's appearance in that movie was like a surprise cameo. You know, it wasn't even like something that was like fully announced. He just shows up at the end as like I believe he was an FBI director. He was the one that everyone started saying, okay, we'll what do you want in order for us to get this technology? And that's when it was like a row of people. It was like, well, I want this and that. I want this and that. And I think River Phoenix's line was, I want peace in the world. The what did he say? I think he also said, I want the cure for curing hunger across America, and I want her phone number. One of the lady FBI agents. And it's like, you could have anything you want, and the one thing you want is my phone number. And he's like, absolutely. And she's like, okay, it's 555. And James Earl Jones looks at her like what the hell are you doing? Really great role of his, and it's such a great movie. That movie is Sneakers. It's so good. Yeah, definitely worth watching, and it still holds up. I think I saw it again 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed the movie. It was so good. Play him off with us. Yes, James Earl Jones, you are going to be forever remembered in Hollywood, in all of our lives. Again, as someone who grew up in watching you, hearing you, I think most of us heard him the most in our lives growing up. You'll never be forgotten. A true legend in Hollywood and in life. So give it up to James Earl Jones. I loved him in The Sandlot. He was great in The Sandlot. Best of the Best. That's another great role of his. Yeah, again, a lot of great stuff. Like I said, never seen him phoning in once, ever. So, Coming to America. Sammy, where is Akeem? I am looking for my son, Akeem. when he was talking to, when he found out that he wanted to marry the girl, he's like, nonsense! I will not allow it. With his lion thing, with his lion kind of gear and all that. It's so funny, man. He's so good. And that's another thing too. He could do drama, comedy, you know, action a little bit. His role in The Hunt for Red October was fantastic. You know, he was very multifaceted. He was just so good. That's a put that up there with my George Lucas. You, I will not allow it. Where is my son? Where is Akeem? Semi. What was his helper's name? Oh, and that means, like, you know, that guy would come in and pay you off. Oh, put a suck in it, Joffrey. The boy's in love. Oh, Coming to America, great film. Filmed partially in my neighborhood, y'all. I don't know if I ever talked about this before, but the McDowell's was a Wendy's in my neighborhood. And I was in grade school at the time, and I remember walking home from school because I hated taking the bus. Walking home from school and seeing them break down that Wendy's on Queens Boulevard, on the corner of Queens Boulevard and Broadway, or like right off it. And they broke down that Wendy's and they turned it into a McDowell's. And I'm like, what are they doing over there? And that's when I found out they were filming an Eddie Murphy movie that didn't have a title at the time. Or at least they weren't allowed to tell us what the title was. There was like groups of people outside hoping to be extras in the movie and all that. And lo and behold, when I finally saw Coming to America, bam. I was like, oh my God, that's my neighborhood. Freaking amazing. Yeah. So that movie will always hold a very special place in my heart, Coming to America, because I had a chance to see them at least build something from it, be a part of it, and that's my neighborhood growing up. So I really love that. I really love that movie. And plus, it's such a funny movie. It's such a great movie. One of Eddie Murphy's best movies. And we all agree, or at least let's all agree now moving forward, to never talk about the sequel. In my mind, it's like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It never, ever existed. Although I will say that I've kind of slowly appreciate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a little bit more now. So you should have taken pictures. Well, remember, this was around the time when if I wanted to take a picture, I would either have to have a disposable camera or an actual real film camera, because cell phones, digital, that was not a thing for back then. And plus, I was like in and out of school, so carrying a camera with me was not something that I would have thought about. Spying on them for McDonald's, which is true. There was a McDonald's later down the boulevard, like further down the boulevard. If you walked like maybe 5 minutes from that Wendy's location, there was that McDonald's I used to go to all the time. So that was true. And I love the shoe shop that was right next door to the restaurant that was also in the movie. That was there for a very long time. Oh my God. It is just so amazing. So I know you know about Polaroids and all that, but there are a lot of people who will probably watch this that have no idea about film cameras. And plus, Polaroids made a comeback. It's like a niche fad thing nowadays. If you go to a wedding, people have Polaroids there. You can take pictures of yourself and all that. So Polaroids is one thing, or one piece of old tech that never really fully went away. It's always been around, but you see a lot of people buying those mini disposable cameras or those mini compact cameras from back then. You don't really see that anymore. But Polaroid, for some reason, just had longevity because it's very fun, especially at parties. It's very great for a younger generation to play around with. Instant film, instant pictures. It has an aesthetic that people really like. So it's very, very interesting and fun. All right. Well, Caleb, I appreciate you dropping the news and letting us know, because I would have not known until probably I went off stream. So it's nice to reminisce about James Earl Jones for a bit and to talk about his career. 93 years old, man. What a great life for him. All right, let's now talk about this movie. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Say it thrice and run away. So again, this new movie coming out, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, we all saw the trailers, right? And I think there was a lot of hesitation from a lot of us. I think Star-Lord is a perfect example. First trailer dropped, he was super excited. Then more trailers dropped and he got very uninterested. And I think a lot of people were starting to feel the same way. A lot of people were starting to feel hesitant, skeptical about this movie, especially those people who are constantly surrounded by like movie news and, the movie talk scene. People like myself who talk about the industry and talk about news and all those things. And even myself, I was starting to get extremely skeptical about the movie, and I was getting a little worried about it. I refused to read any early, reviews about it when it debuted at, it either debuted at Venice or I think it debuted at Venice Film Festival, right? And there was people already reviewing about it, giving their thoughts, giving their ratings about it, and all those things like that. So it was just one of those things that I try to avoid because I want to go in on it fresh, untainted, undisturbed, uninfluenced, right? Like I do with any movie. I think the only movie recently that messed that up for me was, I forgot what movie it was, where I started reading early reviews on stream. And I feel like in a way that kind of tainted my expectations a little bit. But I went into this thinking that if anything, it would just be fun to see Michael Keaton back in the makeup and all that again, right? And I'll say this, it was extremely fun to see him back in the makeup again. The times I laughed the most was the times he was on screen. And yeah, very similar to the first movie, he wasn't on screen a whole lot, which I think was a good choice to keep him still as the chaotic demon background character that his main purpose is just to cause havoc, right? That's basically his character. If you think of Beetlejuice's character in a nutshell, yes, he does want to escape the afterlife. He wants to be amongst the living again, but he also loves creating chaos. In anything he does, he's a mischief guy. He's a mischief maker, right? And in this movie, he still played that role, even though there was a little bit more importance put on his character because of certain situations. You've seen the trailer, you know. Ex-wife is back looking for him, all those things. And eventually the Dietzes look for him for help once again for whatever reason. And I'm not going to go into spoilers just yet. I'm just going to talk about, my initial thoughts and all that. So Michael Keaton, fantastic in this role. Absolutely fantastic. I would give big props and shout outs to Catherine O'Hara. Catherine O'Hara was hilarious in the small moments that she had on screen. She had a lot of moments that made me laugh out loud. She is still a very funny actress. Comedic timing is top notch. No surprise again, it's Catherine O'Hara. The chemistry she had with Winona Ryder was still there, and it still worked out well. Another major surprise to me was Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe, and we don't really get a chance to see him in comedy too much, but my God, this guy is hilarious. And I'll give you a brief description of what his character is. He is an actor who, for the longest time, played roles as a cop, FBI guy, action star, who is now in the afterlife as a detective. So there's a lot of these tropes that you associate these type of actors with, and he plays on those tropes so brilliantly well. It is hilarious seeing him on screen. He was really, really a pleasant surprise. Now, Jenna Ortega is Jenna Ortega. If you've seen her in Wednesday, yes, she still plays kind of morbid, kind of like awkward and all that. Not to the same level as Wednesday, but pretty close, Maybe more along the lines of a lighter version of Winona's character, Lydia, when she was that age, but not so hardcore into it, right? But she was still kind of like, she doesn't really get along well with the family, this and that. She still wants to be her own individual, blah, 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 and all that stuff like that. I thought she was okay in the movie. I thought it was a smart move to have her in this movie. And she works really well with Tim Burton. You can see that. And I think it's perfect because it draws in that audience that loves her, that loved Wednesday. I think it's brilliant to have her in this movie. And like I said before, I can see Tim Burton using her in future movies down the line. I think they just work really well together. Winona was okay. It didn't feel like I was seeing Lydia as a grown-up Lydia. They do something weird with her character where now she's kind of like a paranormal, kind of like not investigator, but like a medium because of what happened in the first movie. So she has her own TV show and all that, it very much reminded me of like Ghostbusters 2, when Peter Venkman started having his own paranormal show and like oddities show and all that. It very much reminded me of that. It didn't really work on me, but it is what it is, right? Monica Bellucci is still gorgeous for her age. I thought she was great, even though not a great character, not like a major character in this film. It was nice seeing Danny DeVito in there and all that. Justin Theroux, I had no interest in this guy whatsoever. His character sucked, and I think that was on purpose. But I cringed every time he was on screen. It was just, I don't know if he's like the right fit for this type of universe or this type of movie, but it was just not. It didn't work for me at all, And again, maybe that was done on purpose, and if it did, bravo, it worked. Now, for the movie overall, the one thing that I loved about the original movie was that it set up the story so perfectly well, where you had the Maitlands, you're starting to think that these are the guys you're going to be following throughout the movie. It was very unexpected when what happened with them when they passed away, now dealing with the afterlife, and now dealing with, like, you know, the living, and the whole thing about them never being able to leave the house and all those things like that. So I loved, like, that whole story building, character building. And you really just, like I say this all the time and time again, in order for any movie to work, any story to work, you have to be invested in the characters. And what the first movie did well, even though there are many moments where it was bizarre and chaotic, you were invested in these characters. You loved the Maitlands, and you equally were very much interested in the Dietzes, especially Lydia, and the relationship she had with the Maitlands, right? And then at the end, everyone was all very much kumbaya and all that stuff. I felt like a lot of that was kind of missing in this movie, where we are reintroduced to Lydia, we're reintroduced to Catherine O'Hara's Delia, the whole, Jeffrey Jones's thing, the way they handled that whole situation was, it worked, but I was surprised at how much they lingered around that a little bit, like how still big of a presence that character was in this film without going into further details about it. But the only new people we were introduced to was Justin Theroux's character, which I said didn't care for, really honestly didn't care for, and Jenna Ortega, Astrid, right? Which I thought she was an interesting character and, nice addition to the family. But a lot of things that she did or that she experienced was very rushed. Rush. And, rushed even more so than Lydia's experience in the first movie. Like, there wasn't time or enough time to really marinate with her, and they introduced her. You kind of get in a sense of the kind of character she was and how she's going to fit in the story. And then they kind of just shoved her into the madness. And the first half of the movie was very slow. And I felt like there were times where the pacing was off a little bit. And it's because they're setting up so much plot. There's a lot of these little plots happening, more so than the original movie. And it made you wonder, like, am I supposed to be following this? Well, what's going to happen with this? And how is it all going to culminate in the end? And I think the main reason, what's going on, Cindy? Nice seeing you here. I hope you're doing well. Say it twice. Be nice. Say it 3 times. And I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I hope you enjoyed Beetlejuice, because that's what we're talking about right now. And it's all that setting up a plot that really made the second half of the film extremely chaotic. And Star-Lord, no, there is unfortunately no football team, no ghost football team in this one. There were a lot of Bobs, like those shrunken head guys, which in a way didn't make sense. There are certain things that kind of didn't make sense in this movie that was introduced in the original movie that I felt like they kind of veered away from. I mean, we all remember the shrunken head guys because they're funny to look at, right? But they were done because there was a voodoo shaman that had the powder that would shrink people's heads. I will say this right now, nowhere to be seen. Shaman, nowhere to be seen. So you just have a random grouping of these guys with small shrunken heads that just happened to be there. So I felt like that was just brought back for comedic value. Tim Burton's probably like, oh, everyone loved these characters, so I'm just going to use them here. Again, weird that they're there. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but it just didn't gel and make sense. And the last half was them trying so hard to close out all the plots, all the storylines that they were introducing, that it caused for such chaos. So much was happening in the last half. So much was happening in the third act that I felt like there were times I needed a break. I needed and they did that by kind of adding like comedic elements in between a lot of these moments. But so many things were happening, and then they will introduce this new thing to happen. And like, wait a minute, now this is going to happen? Well, how are they going to explain this later on? And then blah, 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 blah. It was just very chaotic, And yes, there were a good amount of times I smiled throughout the film. I got good chuckles out of a lot of like little quick one-liners and delivery of certain lines, mostly from Michael Keaton, Catherine O'Hara, and Willem Dafoe. Like those three, those were the three people, performers, that when they did something, I laughed because it was hilarious. I didn't laugh at all with Jenna. I didn't laugh much with Winona. Again, you already know my thoughts on Justin Theroux. Monica served a purpose, but again, I felt kind of underutilized. Right? She was kind of like the pending doom that you're waiting for in the movie as to how that's going to affect everything. And then when she shows up, it was very okay. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Like, whoa, what happened there? Right? So at the end of the day, oh, and it had a bizarre ending too. Again, I'll get into that a little later, but the ending was so bizarre that it made me wonder, like, what the hell did I just watch? Was it all different? You know? But I will say this. It was a very silly Tim Burton movie. But it was a Tim Burton movie that was kind of refreshing to see after a long time of not seeing this style of Tim Burton movie. A lot of practical effects, not a lot of CG in here, which is fantastic. Great costumes, great makeup, a lot of little callbacks and throwbacks sprinkled on throughout, but also a lot of things that you veered away after learning about it in the first movie. Like, where was the whole, people living with the afterlife people, the afterlife living with real life people? Where was all that? We ended the first movie with a new handbook and people are learning how to live with the dead and all that. But that was totally kind of thrown out the window. And we really didn't see a lot of that happening. It's almost as if everything was reset because there wasn't a lot of interconnectivity between the afterlife and the living, with the exception of Lydia, who is now a medium, and her show is based upon ghost houses and haunted places, and she goes in and she could kind of see things and all those things like that. And then, later on we see Astrid may have the same powers as her mom, right? But a lot of that wasn't fully explored. And most of it was forgotten from the first movie. So that, in a way, it kind of created new opportunities to introduce new things within this movie, which in a way, I could kind of understand. But overall, it was an okay movie, in my opinion. I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. That's what I will give it on Letterboxd. It's a sequel that, in my opinion, didn't really push forward much of a narrative of anything. With the exception of, okay, we know Lydia has a daughter who shares similarities with her mom. Beetlejuice did what Beetlejuice does, but I didn't see like further progression of his character, really. The afterlife is there, but we didn't really get to explore too much of it. That makes us, like, there are new segments within the afterlife that we were introduced to, or sectors of the afterlife we were introduced to, but nothing that made me feel like, oh, wow, like I learned so much more in this movie, or I've seen so much more in this movie, just didn't see a lot of that. And I don't want to say it was a movie. We were just reading an article that talked about the potential sequels, right? And how they wanted to write stories that helped progress a character and not base it really off of ideas. In a way, I feel like this movie kind of fell into that trap where they had an idea, say, hey, let's do that. And everyone else is there just to explore that idea. And a lot of the ideas kind of mimic what we already saw in the first movie. It's not a complete rehash of what we saw, but there were bits and pieces that reminded me of the first movie. So in my opinion, I feel like this is a sequel that really doesn't matter. If you see this or not, it doesn't really help progress anything that you've learned from the first movie. It's just a nice kind of, hey, remember this universe? Oh, it's kind of nice to be back in this universe. Oh, I love this character. Oh, that's a great throwback to this character. But after that, overall, that's all you really got, So it was nice to hear the soundtrack again. Again, nice to see Michael Keaton in the Beetlejuice costume and makeup again. But I don't think we're gonna get another movie. Tim Burton already said so, that he's not looking forward to directing any other movie in this universe. That doesn't mean he can't pass it on to somebody else. I honestly do feel like if they do make another one, they should highly reconsider the whole Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. Because I think that just take it somewhere crazy. Just take it somewhere, just play with it. Play with these people a little bit more. I think it'll be hilarious. Parody yourself. Parody what you've done so far. I think that would be very interesting to do so, and would be very Beetlejuice-like. Again, an agent of chaos. I think it would be perfect to kind of have him just, be chaotic. And I think limiting his time may have hurt the movie a little bit, because you could tell people wanted to see more of him. But I do appreciate the fact, again, that they kept a similar vibe from the original movie and made his time on screen not as important. But in order for it to work, you need to be really invested in the other main characters. And I think for the most part, I was not. So that's why for me, it was 3 out of 5. And that's just my initial thoughts on the movie as a whole. These Beatles drank all my juice narrative in 2024. Where's my J.K. Simmons? Yeah. But like I said, Tim Burton, it was nice. It was really nice to see Tim Burton back in his form. And we saw a little bit of that with Wednesday. And that's why Wednesday was done so well, I thought. But Wednesday also had a very strong story and very strong character development. This movie in itself, it was nice to see him come back to form as far as filmmaking is concerned. But story suffered a little bit, in my opinion. So, but again, if you guys enjoyed the movie overall, then I'm very happy for you. I'll tell you the tone of the theater. It was 85% full, my theater last night, late night showing, and me, I could hear, outside of myself, chuckle at the things I chuckled at. I could hear maybe 3 other people chuckle out of a crowd of 85% capacity. When the movie ended, the people who got up and left didn't seem like they were like, oh my God, that was fun, or all that. They just got up and just walked out. No real reaction. No like, wow, that was fantastic. It was very mediocre, the reaction. So at least at my theater last night, that's what you got. So I don't know if that's going to mirror what a lot of people think about this movie. I mean, right now, just looking at IMDb, 7.2 out of 10. I don't know what the Rotten Tomato score is right now. Here, let's go look at it. I'm pulling it up right now. I love how when I typed in Beetle, you know what's the first movie that popped up? That DC movie. Blue Beetle. All right, so 76% critics rating, 82% audience rating. So it's high, but it's not like a massive like 95% or whatever like that. 82% out of 5,000 plus ratings, audience rating. So look, I'm glad it worked for some, but for me, again, it was just one of those things where, it is a movie. Again, nice to see and nice to be back in this universe, but yeah, it just didn't do so much for me. And if we don't get another movie in this whole franchise, I'm perfectly fine with it. I'd be surprised if we get another one anytime soon. But if they do, again, I will highly say you gotta do the whole Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, because I think that would be a fantastic idea. How long were they working on this movie? That's a great question. Let me see. I'll look that up right now. I also want to know what the budget was for this movie. I'm just very curious about it, but let's see. Let's look at the production of this. They mention also Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. So if you're not talking about the script, because it sounds like the script, they've been working on the script since like 2016. 2013 was when Winona first were hinted that they were working on it. Then I think they started working on the script in 2015, then 2016, then 2017, and then 2019. But February 2022 was when it was announced. Oh yeah, and Brad Pitt's studio, Plan B, is part of this production too. So Brad Pitt is a producer on this film. But it sounds like they didn't even know who was doing it. Burton stated in October 2022 that he was not involved in the project, but backtracked days later saying nothing is out of the question. So yeah, so I have a feeling that Tim Burton, at least when you look at the chain of events, Tim Burton became more interested in doing this after working with Jenna Ortega in Wednesday. So I think working with her in Wednesday really made him more excited in doing a sequel to Beetlejuice, because he probably saw, hey, she kind of reminds me of like maybe a young Lydia, or what if I wrote in Lydia had a daughter? And I think that's basically what happened here. At least that's what it kind of looks like. So yeah. Started saying that's the problem. The script and actual filmmaking are backwards. Well, yeah, again, it goes back to that article I read. Instead of writing a script and focusing on the story you want to tell that expands the character, that expands the story and the universe, it sounded like they just had an idea, or they just wanted a sequel to make, right? So everything was backwards. And then again, even when you think about Tim Burton's interest in making the movie, hey, I like working with Jenna Ortega in Wednesday. Yeah, let's do another Beetlejuice movie, and I want her in it. What's the story going to be about? Well, we'll figure that out. In fact, we have 3 months. Let's write it. I'm just saying that, but it's not true. I'm sure there was more time, but yeah, and that happens a lot nowadays, especially with major IPs and major franchises. What's going on, Joseph? Hope you're doing well. Yes, James Earl Jones passed on. Yes, I know. Yeah, we talked about that earlier when somebody else mentioned it. Such a legendary person, not just actor, performer, but just person in general. So very, very sad to hear that happen. It shouldn't take long for a script, but it should take long to execute it. I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like I would prefer them working longer on a script, and then executing it should be easier because, well, you have to get funding, you gotta get a studio involved and interested, right? Like the whole filmmaking. Now, if you're, it also depends if you're going practical or doing CG and all those things like that. You know, too many plots. Remember? Yeah, but again, it also begs the questions of how many people wrote this script. If you had one person sit down and write the script, then I think that's fine. But if you have a lot of people putting their inputs on it, plus who knows if the studio said, "What if you add this?" or "What if you do this?" You know what? We need something like this so that the younger generation can appreciate it. That's when things can get nuts. And I think it's a perfect time. And again, this is a big warning to everyone who hasn't seen the movie yet, who's interested in seeing the movie. I am now, it's going to be a perfect time to talk about spoilers now. So, again, heads up, if you don't want the movie spoiled for you, I'm gonna talk about this movie because I think I need to. I need to at least to just to talk about all the series of events that happens in this movie and why it felt so chaotic at the end, and why a lot of things I felt were missing, and a lot of things were just kind of thrown in there just to throw in there, and all those things, right? So, and I'll give another minute just so people can tune out. Also, if you are watching live, don't forget, hit that like button. Would greatly appreciate it. As I drink more of my coffee. La da dee, la da da. As I get ready for my voice, I've been talking a lot. It's been a week since I talked this much, guys. So I apologize if my voice is cracking and all that stuff. Also, I'm already going pretty long today. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be streaming. I know I haven't had a chance to react to the trailers I said I was going to react to and all that. May not be able to get to that today. Also, this one bit of news I really wanted to read. May not be able to get into that today either. So I may have to save that for another stream this week. But all right. So spoilers. So let's I'm going to list out the series of events that happens in this movie and why it just went really crazy at the end. So movie starts, obviously we're back in the town, just to kind of show the town and all that, right? That's not necessarily where the Dietzes live right now. They haven't lived there in a while, apparently, from what it sounds like, but they still own the home. Lydia runs a show because she is now like a ghost medium. So she does a lot of like ghost tours, haunted tours, all those things like that. Her producer, played by Justin Theroux, it works with her. And apparently they have a relationship, romantic relationship. So they're dating. She has a daughter, Astrid, who is going to school, all girls school, all that. And she's like kind of picked on. She's bullied on because she's a little different. Again, very much like Lydia when she was her age, right? So that's the premise we have set up already for at least the Dietz family, right? Beetlejuice apparently still is running his bioexorcist firm with all the different Bobs who are his kind of like employees. So he's allowed to do this in the afterlife. How that happened, we don't know. We thought he was kind of shunned. We thought he was kind of looked down on in the afterlife. People wanted to get rid of him, right? But he's still there, still doing what he's doing, and he's looking for his next jobs. And it sounds like what they do is that they're looking for jobs for them to do in the bioexorcism kind of whatever, right? And then word drops that Lydia's father dies. The aforementioned person that we don't talk about anymore because of really bad allegations of CP and all that. So Lydia, who apparently doesn't really talk to her mom much, has to go to her mom, who is now working in New York City as still an artist, still involved in crazy art and all those things like that, was about to open up a show. And, your dad passed away. So now we're having a funeral and we're going to have it in the old town where the house is. And the story of him passing away was actually kind of a funny one, where apparently he's still into bird watching. So he signed up for an expedition to some remote island somewhere to bird watch. The plane crashes. He survived the initial plane crash, but then gets eaten by a shark. So that's basically how he passes away, which I think is funny. And we get to see him constantly in the afterlife throughout the film, going through what everyone goes through when they pass away, except his half of his body is basically demolished. All you see is the remains of his lower half walking around, and what was once his shoulder and head is just spewing blood all over the place. We hear him talking, so they hired someone to kind of mimic his voice. And I'm very like, oh, yeah, I think that was a mistake. I think I'm sorry. So he talks like that, right? So he's our first entry into the afterlife because of his passing. They have his funeral. They have a kind of like a nice little gathering at the old house. We get introduced to the daughter, all grown up, of the real estate agent, if you remember from the first movie. And she's also working in real estate, so she wants to sell the house again. She has her own daughter, and they all still act kind of bubbly and this and that, blah, 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 whatever, all kind of like all out of it. And at this moment, for some bizarre reason, Justin Theroux's character decides to propose to Lydia. It's Halloween in a couple of days, and he wants to get married on Halloween. So it kind of taints this whole funeral thing and remembrance thing. Of course, Astrid gets angry about that, takes a bike, rides through the town, crashes into a tree where there's a treehouse and there's a guy there. Boom, boom, boom. Romance interest, right? So there's this guy, young, hot-looking guy, and it's like, oh, I'm reading this book. Oh, I've read that book 3 times, and blah, 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 blah. And I say, yeah, I'm here. Oh, your mom is Lydia Dietz. Wow, you're famous, and da 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 da. So again, all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, and now they're getting married on Halloween, and yeah, Halloween used to be fun, and all this kind of stuff like that. Yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, if you don't want to spend Halloween there, and if you have some time, maybe you could just hang out with me here. So again, romantic interest moves things really quickly, And, Beetlejuice catches wind of the passing of the father because he's looking through the obituaries. He's like, oh, now's my chance. Now I could finally try again to re-look into my plot about getting back into the real life. At the same time, thanks to Danny DeVito, who's now a janitor in the afterlife, he accidentally disrupts this box, and it's a bunch of little boxes, and we find out there's Monica Bellucci as she's putting herself together and kind of like stapling herself together. And the first thing on her mind is like, where's Beetlejuice? That's my husband to be, and blah blah blah. She was missing the finger, but then the finger was there, so it's not the same finger that was in his pocket, or maybe it was, and then maybe they packed it away later on. I don't know. Weird plot hole, because that finger was in Beetlejuice's possession. How did it end up in one of the boxes? Who knows? Whatever. All right. So now she's looking for Beetlejuice, and Beetlejuice catches winds of this, and he's like, "Oh, my ex-wife is coming. Let me tell you a little story about how this all happened." And this was very funny because all of a sudden it turned into like an old school Spanish horror film, where he just goes off about telling a backstory. This is the first time we actually get a Beetlejuice backstory, which is fantastic. So we get to see an untainted Beetlejuice, meeting Monica Bellucci's character Dolores for the first time. And we come to find out, he was like a grave robber, trying to rob graves and get the jewelry and all those things like that. She turned out to be like a witch in real life and killed him off and blah, blah, and then wanted to get married and yada, yada, yada. And then things didn't work out. He got scared off. He ran away. Stuff that we kind of already guessed to happen, and kind of like he alluded to in the past and all that. But since she was like left at the altar, like she's always been having this thing that she wants to seek revenge on Beetlejuice and all. So of course Beetlejuice wants to keep his distance, and he feels like the best way to do so is to try to get back into the real life, escape the afterlife, so that he can get away from this crazy ex-wife of his, right? That's why he plots the whole thing. It's like, well, the only way I could do that is get married, so maybe I could rekindle my love with Lydia and this and that. Not realizing that she was already proposed to and promised to somebody else, right? This is where all the craziness happens. So already we have the ex-wife Beetlejuice kind of drama. We have Lydia and the marriage drama. We have Astrid and the newfound romance boy, which I'm going to get into later. And so what did I say? Beetlejuice, Astrid, Lydia, and then there's Willem Dafoe. And then Willem Dafoe, again, we get introduced to as this guy who is now playing a detective in the afterlife. Used to be an actor who played detectives and action stars and all those things. And he is now he's investigating why is Monica Bellucci's character back and how that's going to affect Beetlejuice. And he's trying to put a stop to all of that, because it's going to cause havoc and chaos for the afterlife. So, what happens with Astrid? Astrid, in her own way, falls in love with this boy, which comes to find out, big reveal, the boy is not part of the living. Astrid has the same powers as her mom, and she can see people in the afterlife. This boy is tied to this house where he is stuck at, and can only go as far as where his treehouse is. His parents are still there with him, and basically, same thing that would happen in the first movie. I would really love to be with you because I'm in love with you and I want to join you in the real life. And in order to do so, we need to get married. So what? We're going to have 2 marriages happening right now? But wait. So right before the wedding day of Lydia and Justin Theroux, she's signing the deeds because she wants to sell the house and all those things like that. And she's like, oh, where's Astrid? Oh, she's hanging out with some boy she met and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, yeah, I dropped her off at his house on Jefferson Street. We don't talk about Jefferson Street. Why? There was something heinous to happen on Jefferson Street. What happened? Who's the name of the boy she's seeing? Oh, it's a blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, can't be that same boy. Because that guy, he murdered his family. He murdered his mom and dad. And when the cops showed up, he, hid out in his treehouse and he fell to his death because he broke his neck. No way. That's who Astrid's seeing. And then that's where we spawn off into this chaotic second half of the movie, where you have Astrid, who's now being held hostage without her knowing by this new guy, who now takes her into the afterlife using the Book of the Dead to open up the doorway so that he can essentially exchange life forms. So she's going to get stuck in the afterlife. He's going to get out because she signs off her soul to him so that he can be part of the living. And Lydia finds out about this and what needs to stop it. But she can't do it alone. Guess who I need help from? Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Hey, what's up, Biden? You need help? Well, you got to do something for me. A little quid pro quo. All that. It's like, I could help you. I could get rid of this guy. I could have to save her, but you're going to have to do me a solid. So I have this crazy ex, right? And she's going to kill me. And I don't want that to happen because she's a soul sucker. What she does is that she sucks souls of people in the afterlife. And when they do that, that's it. They're done. They're not even in the afterlife. They're dead. I'm dead now. They're dead. I don't want to be dead. You need to help me. In order for me to get away from the ex, you need to marry me. It's like, oh my God, we're doing this again. And it's like, oh, come on, what do you want? Blah, 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 all this kind of stuff like that. So even though she's promised to marry this guy, she tentatively agrees, okay, fine. If this is the only way to do this, let's do this. So he's like, oh, but this time we need to put this in writing. So he has his contract. She signs the contract, blah, blah, blah. All right, I'm going to help you. So he does eventually help her. Lydia and Astrid meet in the afterlife, running away. Oh, by the way, guess who's one of the workers in the afterlife? It's my dad. So they have a nice little reunion and all that, which is really sweet and very cute. The dad also died in some sort of accident where he was left at sea and he was eaten by piranha. So, of course, he still has the piranha all over him and all that. It's like, oh, you turned out to be a great, you grew up so fast and you're an amazing daughter. We raised a great daughter, didn't we? Oh, yes, I love you, Dad. Blah, 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 all that. So during all this, Catherine O'Hara, Delia, is still doing stuff with the dead husband because she misses him terribly. So again, this is all leading to the wedding day. So she's now holding a seance on the gravestone of the dead father. Again, this guy is getting a lot of play in this movie for someone who we really don't want to show his face on. And his face is on the tombstone, so we're seeing this dude's face. So as part of the ritual, she got these these snakes that are semi-poisonous, but she was told that they're not poisonous, they've been defanged and all that. And she kind of like throws back to how it was in Egypt time in the pharaohs. And in order to pay homage to the king or whatever, I'm supposed to do this seance with these like snakes and everything, and blah blah blah. Turns out the snakes were poisonous. Bite her in the neck. Guess who else dies now? Delia's now dead. Now she finds herself in the waiting room. She's like, no, this can't be true. I'm now here. What's happening? Mind you, even though she signed an agreement with Beetlejuice, Lydia broke away from Beetlejuice because now she saw Astrid, and now she's trying to get Astrid out of the afterlife and into the living and tried to avoid Beetlejuice. So Beetlejuice finds the mom and is like, hey, what's going on, mama? And, he's like, she's like, I'm not supposed to be here. I was lied to, blah, blah. He's like, well, guess what? I can help you out, but you got to help me find it because I have a runaway bride situation and stuff like that. So now they're teaming up to come and look for these guys. Can you see why it's so chaotic of all of these things happening right now? And during this whole time, Monica Bellucci is running around the afterlife, coming across everyone. I was like, where's Beetlejuice? Sucking everyone's soul who doesn't really help her out. Where's Beetlejuice? So all of this stuff's happening. Finally, we get to the wedding day, right? And of course, Justin Theroux's like, oh, where have you been? Blah, blah, this and that. And well, because I had, long story short, I had to find my daughter and this and that. Mind you, this whole thing with the dude was said and done immediately. Beetlejuice was about to stamp his passport for his gateway and entry into the real life, but it was a fake stamp. And it's basically a stamp that says you're shit out of luck. He ended up dropping and he went into hell. That's it. That's how the whole thing was solved. Said and done, never would be spoken about again. By the way, his dead parents are still at the house over there. So I guess we're just going to forget about all of them, right? They're just going to hang out there. So that's it is what it is. By the way, also, whenever they were asking, this could be a potential show where maybe Lydia can now revisit her old home and we could do an episode on this, and then maybe we get the help of your couple ghost friend that used to live here. Oh, they don't live here anymore. Why is that? They found a loophole in the whole rules and they found a way to move on. What? What? So somehow, without any further explanation, there is some sort of loophole in the rules that they found that allowed them to move on and not be attached to that house anymore. Kind of broken to me, if you ask me. That doesn't seem to make sense, but that was like a quick blurb, and then they moved on from that. Okay, wedding. So we're there, and of course, Beetlejuice shows up like, wait a minute. You can't be marrying her. It is my wedding. And by the way, I guarantee you, this guy is not the kind of guy you want to marry anyway, because I'm going to inject him with some truth serum, and he's going to tell you exactly why he wants to marry you. Like, here you go. Boom. And basically, we find out that the only reason why this guy wants to marry her is because of the money. That he has no interest in her, no interest in what she does for a living, doesn't believe in any of this ghost bullshit, and just thought it would be a great thing to do because he's going to reap the benefits with all the money and all that. So she gets upset, punches him with a glove that Beetlejuice gave her, knocks him out of the room, all those things. And he's like, all right, let's do this, honey. And, they're about to get married because it's part of the contract. But then all of a sudden, Monica Bellucci shows up and, what's going to happen here? This all happens after a major musical number, which there were two. Here that happened on the wedding day, where him and Lydia are waltzing, they're dancing, and there's seriously, a major operatic, a rock and roll opera musical. Because you're setting up the big thing that happens here, where it's a wedding day. Beetlejuice is about to marry Lydia again for the second time. Then you have Willem Dafoe showing up to stop Beetlejuice and to stop Monica Bellucci, who is about to bust in on this wedding to get Beetlejuice, right? Then you were able to get Catherine O'Hara out of the underworld. I forgot at this point how that really happened, how they were able to figure that out. maybe another loophole in the damn rules and all that. And Astrid is there just witnessing the whole thing happening. Now, I thought it would have made more sense if maybe he tried to marry Astrid, but he still has the hots for Lydia, right? Which obviously Monica Bellucci's character is really angry about. So Monica Bellucci finally shows up. Beetlejuice, I'm going to get you in revenge and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Then the cops show up. Willem Dafoe shows up. He's like, hey, what's going on? Freeze. And everyone freezes. And there's this big confrontation and all these things like that. And between Astrid and Catherine O'Hara, they figured out how to open up another doorway to get the worm to come back up. So almost similar to like what we saw in the first movie, except the worm is not getting Beetlejuice this time. Beetlejuice found a way to kind of like escape the death of the worm, and instead it got Monica Bellucci. So Monica Bellucci and Justin Theroux gets captured by the sandworm, removed out of the picture, right? Star-Lord, no, there's no time travel in this at all, which also doesn't make sense because there was a moment where both Astrid and Lydia were in that weird sandworm era, and when they were pulled back in by the husband, the father, who's in the afterlife, no time was wasted. No time was like, done. There was no fast forwarding in time. So that was another thing that they didn't pay attention to from the first movie. All right. So, wedding doesn't happen because Beetlejuice broke the rules of the contract because he was still involved with somebody else that was never annulled or something like that. Something happened where it's like, no, the contract is now void. And she says, Beetlejuice, 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 brings him back into the afterlife. She saves herself from marrying anybody. Astrid's safe. Catherine O'Hara's character is still dead. So she ends up still going back in the afterlife where she meets her husband, half of Jeffrey Jones walking around. They get to go on the Soul Train, which is this new thing, right? And yes, it's Soul Train. So there's dancing and disco and all the stuff like that. We all know. We saw it last time when I did my celebratory stream, right? And that's supposed to take you and usher the souls into where they're supposed to be. And all that happens, and here's the kicker. Astrid and Lydia form a new relationship where they now travel the world and they explore haunted locations. They end up in Transylvania, from what it looks like. Astrid meets a boy, gets married, has a baby. But what comes out of the baby was a crazy-ass baby Beetlejuice, which we saw earlier in the movie, because when Beetlejuice was playing wedding couples counseling between Lydia and Justin Theroux's character, he kind of does this thing where he made her pregnant real quick, and she gave birth to this demonic Beetlejuice baby. Not really important to mention, but that happens in this movie. But Astrid gives birth to crazy demonic Beetlejuice baby, who's like climbing the walls and the ceiling, and everything is looking crazy and chaotic. Boom. Lydia wakes up. Oh my God, what the hell was that? And then who stands up next to her in the dream? Beetlejuice. Man, that was a weird dream. What? Boom. And then we get another wake up. And this time Lydia really wakes up. Like, what the fuck was all that? She looks over the bed next to her. No one's there. It's empty. And she's looking frightened and confused. And that's how I felt, because the movie ended. And that was it. So, does this mean that everything that transpired in this movie didn't happen at all? Was this all a dream within a dream? We don't know. No post-credit scene at all. Nothing. Nothing to help further explain what we just saw. Nothing to help further any kind of story. Nothing like a little nod and wink at the audience. Thanks for watching. Nothing. And that's basically how this movie turned out. And you could see how it could really throw you off because of all the chaos that happened in this movie. So many plots, so many holes in it. and the rush to kind of like finalize everything in the second half of the movie. It's bizarre. It was crazy. That's why I spent most of the time sitting there just like I felt like I was watching Challengers, the crazy tennis match. And yeah, it was nuts. Like I said, there are moments of the film that worked. Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice is fantastic. Willem Dafoe's character was great. Catherine O'Hara is brilliant. You know, but yeah, there was just so much happening here, and I breezed through it. I mean, I may have missed things here and there, but nothing that is so consequential to the overall storyline. But at least you can kind of see how everything turned out, how everything paced, and all the things that happened towards the end of the movie. You know, I will be interested in watching it again just to see if there's anything else I missed, especially at the end, because like right now, for the life of me, I can't recall why the contract was void exactly to the T, because it happened all so fast that I was just like, huh? But yeah. Let's see here. Starlord was going on about the whole script writing and filmmaking process. Well, I don't agree with Batman Returns being better than Batman 89, but you know, everyone has their own differences. You love my impressions, like my Beetlejuice impression. It's the BCU Beetlejuice cinematic universe. Next, we will get female Marty in Back to the Future, where young dad falls in love and becomes. That would be funny. They pulled the son of the mask in Beetlejuice. I bet that was Danny DeVito's idea for the Beetlejuice baby. Enzo's asking if I could speak an Italian word. Pasta. Actually, I've been to Italy. So, what is it? Allora. Everything in Italy, every person ends the sentence with allora. Allora. You mean Junior? Yeah, Junior. That was Junior was yeah, that was the one where Schwarzenegger gave birth, right? Gives birth. I said arguably better than Batman 89. Touche. So yeah. So that's Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. And I'll take that off for now. So yeah, so if anything, this movie was definitely a wild ride towards the end. You know, overall, like I said, it was an okay movie. You know, there are certain parts that were definitely entertaining, but it was a movie that is silly, nonsensical at times, doesn't really move anything forward as far as story or narrative of the universe or the characters. It was just a nice kind of it was a nice drop in back into the universe and saying, oh look, this is like this is the kind of plot that you could probably expect from the cartoon. Which is funny because with Frozen Empire, Ghostbusters, it also felt very like a cartoon episode. Adventure of the week. That's kind of what it felt like at times. But here it felt like multiple adventures of the week that all culminated into one movie. So yeah. So that is what it is. So Star-Lord, I know you said, and I'm gonna go back. You said you want to wait till October to see Beetlejuice. After hearing me say everything I said, are you looking forward to it more or less, or just something you know you're just gonna end up watching regardless? This face he's making here, by the way, that's exactly how my face was at the end of the movie. especially with that whole dream within a dream sequence. I was just like, what? Like, what was that all about? Why couldn't we just do shake, 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 Sonora and end it on a dance number? By the way, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I hope if you like what you're seeing, hit that like button, will you? We greatly appreciate it. Like I appreciate all of you. The juice is loose, but it took a deuce. Where's my news? That's funny. So yeah, so like I said, like I'm happy that there are people out there who really appreciated it, who found it funny. Like I said, there were like a decent amount of funny moments, but it was kind of hard to tell when you heard the audience of my theater last night. Like especially when the movie ended, I didn't really hear people excited about the movie at all. You know, send you to Zeus. Now you're stretching. All right, guys, I think I'm going to get ready to wrap things up in about 5 minutes. So if there's anything else you'd love to talk about, like I said, I wish I had more time to react to some of these trailers. I'll save it for the next time. And I really wanted to talk about two topics. One was this interesting article from the Hollywood Reporter that talked about the summer box office as far as revenue is concerned, and the interesting news about Star Wars and Bob Iger kind of mandating that there'll only be one Star Wars series per year to avoid, I guess, just to avoid crap from happening, which in a way makes sense. I kind of like that that's the route they're going. But it's funny how it's Bob Iger that's cleaning up shop right now. He's like, look, it's things are a shambles. That's probably also a reason why they decide not to renew the Acolyte. It's like, look, let's just, it's almost like a refresh. Let's just refresh everything. Put a pause, take in what's done. Obviously, they still have Skeleton Crew coming out this year. You know, we'll let that release. But very much the same thing like they did with Marvel. It's like they're taking a step back. And hopefully this will lead to better quality Star Wars, but we'll see when time comes. But yeah, those are just some articles I'll read next time. And as of right now, there is a good chance I may stream on Wednesday, if not definitely Friday. Friday again at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to hang out again, feel free to join in. And of course, as always, I update the channel as far as what's happening and all. So there you go. That is the week that is to happen this week. This week is to happen this week. Oh. I don't know what the hell that was. I was just doing right now. I have no idea what that was. So Starlord, do you think my Beetlejuice impression should be added to rotation along with my George Lucas? Hey, what's going on there, Mama? So you see, I have a little problem, a little quid pro quo. Uh, I help you, you help me. You know, that's just how it works. You are the juice. I am the juice. As long as I'm Beetlejuice and not the other juice, if you know what I'm saying. I also wouldn't mind being at least Oran Juice Jones. I saw you and him walking in the rain. Thank you. Squeeze me. I am the juice that made Luke. Luke who? Luke Skywalker. Oh, are you hinting at me possibly combining my George Lucas and Beetlejuice impersonations into one? I don't think I could do that. They have two such distinct voices that they deserve to be on their own. They deserve to live on their own. And Darth Vader. My impressions are God tier. Well, that's very kind of you to say. Very kind of you to say. I really appreciate that. I don't think so, but hey, if it entertains you guys, then I'm very happy I could do so. All right, y'all. I think now is a good time for me to get on out of here. I've been streaming now for a little over 3 hours, but I had a lot of fun. It was great to come back after a week of being off. So all of you, I really appreciate you. I appreciate those who were able to come in, even just to say hi or drop a bomb like James Earl Jones passing away. But I will be back, if not Wednesday, Friday. So I hope to see you all again. We'll talk about more stuff in the upcoming days and weeks. But before I go, again, major, huge shout outs to Starlord7, as always, a legend of the channel during these streams and all that. Enzo, I hope you appreciated that little slice of Italiano. Big shout out to Arnold, as always, AKB Mobile Caleb, for dropping that bomb. Appreciate you, or else I would have not known until later on. Lil Sa, appreciate you coming in. Jester, always appreciate you as well. Let's see if I missed anyone else. Chris, always a pleasure seeing you again. A family, always good seeing family on these streams. So James Earl Jones will forever be remembered. But big thank you to all of you out there. I appreciate you all. I will catch you all again soon. I'm going to be working on doing my best to do more uploads on the channel. Bear with me. I know sometimes it seems like this channel, all I do is stream. But I'm looking definitely to do more as much as possible. Like I said, I still have a lot of stuff I'm dealing with behind the scenes, but hopefully I can still be around to do a lot, as much as I can for the channel here. But it's, again, all of this would not be possible without all of your support. So I greatly appreciate you all. So with all that being said, you know the drill by now. Hey, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. I'll catch all of you next time. Peace out, y'all. Bye-bye.